Good evening, everybody. I'll call us back into the open session. And before we get started, I'd like to recognize that the Mount Diablo Unified School District sits on the territory of the Confederated Villages of Lishan, the ancestral and unceded land of the Bay Miwok and Northern Yokut, the successors of the sovereign Varana Band of Contra Costa County. As members of the MDUSD community, it is vitally important that we not only recognize the history of the land on which we learn, but also we recognize that the land we inhabit and learn on is the ancestral land of these peoples who are alive and flourishing members of MDUSD and broader Bay Area communities today. Please stand, and if you choose, please say the Pledge of Allegiance. So we move on to review and approval of the agenda. Are there any changes? Is your mic on? It's not on. Your mic's not on.
Did you hear me? I would like for you to consider changing 1519 and 1520 to be discussed after 18.5. It's the textbooks for Bel Air after we approve the plan. Any other changes?
Can you repeat 15:8?
1518 and 1519 to be considered after 18.5.
Madam President, I move that we approve the agenda as stated by Trustee Mayo, moving items 15.19 and 15.20 to after 18.5.
Second.
Do we vote on the change verbally or do we wait?
They'll put the adjustment in.
That passes 4-0. So now report out on our closed session. Item number 7.1. The board may discuss negotiations or provide direction to its representatives regarding represented employees. We received information. Item 7.2, discipline, dismissal, release, or reassignment of public employee. In closed session by a vote of 4-0 with 1 absence, the board took action to approve the service of certificated dismissal charges on employee ID number 43011 and initiate the certificated dismissal process under the California Education Code. Item 7.3, public employee appointment, evaluation, conference with labor negotiator superintendent pursuant to Government Code 54957. We received information. It's on the agenda.
Oh, okay, thank you.
Do we have, moving on to public comments? Oh my gosh, we have no public comments. That was from before. Oh, well then, you won't be as late as Carmen thought. But we do have 9.0 communications, district organizations at regular board meetings. A single spokesperson of each recognized district organization may make a brief presentation. Items are limited to those which are informational. And I don't have any of those cards either. So we get to move on to 10.0, recognitions and resolutions. So 10.1, review and potential approval of resolution 21-2276, education protection accounts.
Yes, in this item, I'm going to have someone from our business department come up. Dr. Gonzalez is going to come and present this item.
Oh, no, try it again.
Good evening. This is a standing item that we have once a year. Happy to answer any questions and happy to grab my trusty counterpart down the hall if there are any as well.
There seem to be no questions. Thank you. So we need to, it's action, so. we need a
Madam
motion.
President, I move to approve resolution 21-22-76, education protection account.
Second,
That item passes 4-0. Item 10.2, review and potential approval of board resolution 21-22-84 to authorize burial term CBEST waivers for 30-day substitutes.
And from our human resources department.
Thank you. Good evening. Board members, we have before you for your review and potential approval, a resolution that we do each year. The district anticipates employing up to about 100 day-to-day substitutes on a variable term CBEST waiver, which does allow individuals to get a 30-day substitute permit who have a bachelor's degree, but who have not yet taken and passed their CBEST.
A motion?
Madam President, I move the board approve the variable term waiver. Resolution 21.2284.
Second.
Thank you.
That passes 4-0. Item 10.3, review and potential board approval of board resolution 21-2285 to authorize the award of summer contracts.
Yes, and need someone from our from our maintenance and operations. I believe I saw Ms. Coslow earlier. I'll go ahead and take the item. So this is a current schedule of school board meetings will result in the delays of awarding bids or purchase orders if we're unable to. So we're asking for the board to approve this resolution.
Madam President, I'll move that the board approve resolution 21/22-85 to authorize the award of summer contracts.
Second,
That passes 4-0. Item 10.4, review and potential approval of board resolution 21-22-86 for personnel with variable term waivers.
And this is a human resources item. We have Dr. Rubio here.
Good evening again, board members. We have before you our request for your approval for variable term waivers to give our applicants additional time to complete certain requirements for their credential that authorizes their service. And we have approximately 10 or 11, I think, here. 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9 individuals we're asking for your approval.
Madam President, I'll move to approve the variable term waiver.
Second.
Thank you.
That item passes 4-0. Moving on to item 10.5, review and potential approval of resolution 2122-87, designating certain general funds as committed fund balance.
We have Dr. Gonzalez here to answer any questions.
So the reason this resolution is coming forward is because when we brought our proposed budget forward, we had 3 items that were committed. In order to have those items be committed per our auditors and per FCMAT, we are required to have a board resolution that identifies exactly what those expenses are, the amount of those. And then what happens is these funds are locked into these 3 purposes, which would be textbook adoption, for 2 additional years for approximately $11 million, the 403 supplemental retirement. Those are the 2 years that are not currently in the budget for 3.4 million. And then the 23-24, the last year of the current larger collective bargaining agreements for all of our groups for the 2.5%, valued at approximately $6.8 million.
Madam President, I move to approve resolution 2122-87, designating certain general funds as committed fund balance.
Second.
Thank you. That passes 4-0. Moving on to the item that all the families are waiting for, item 11.1. Review and potential approval of personnel appointment program specialist categorical program site-based at Riverview Middle School.
Yes, we have Mr. Sheehy from the Human Resources Department who will introduce all these candidates.
Yes.
All right, great. Take it away.
The Human Resources Department is bringing for the board's review and potential approval the appointment of Ivana Wheeler as a program specialist, categorical program site-based at Riverview Middle School. Currently, Ivana is completing her 3rd year as elementary principal in Vallejo. Previously, Ivana worked as vice principal at Bel Air and has 20 years of experience serving the Bay Point community in MDUSD. Ivana holds a bachelor's degree in liberal studies and a master's degree in educational leadership. With that, I leave this appointment in the hands of the board.
Madam President, I move the board approve Yvonne Wheeler to be appointed program specialist, categorical program site-based at Riverview Middle School.
Second.
That passes 4-0.
Ivana was not able to come tonight.
11.2, review and potential approval, personnel appointment, school support administrator.
All right. The Human Resource Department is bringing for the board's review and potential approval the appointment of Erin DiMartini as school support administrator, elementary. Erin has been in education for 16 years. She spent 10 years as a teacher and TOSA at a Title I elementary school in the San Mateo Foster City School District and has been in MDUSD for 6 years, serving as vice principal at Diablo View Middle School and most recently 4 years as principal at El Monte Elementary School. Erin holds a bachelor's degree in human development and education. In her free time, Erin enjoys cooking, working out, and spending time with her husband, 3 stepsons, and their 1.5-year-old daughter. With that, I leave this appointment in the hands of the board.
Madam President, I move to approve Erin DiMartini as the school support administrator, elementary.
Second.
Dr. Clark, Board of Trustees, thank you for this opportunity. I'm so excited to get to continue my work with our elementary team and support our amazing principals, especially with their goals and work, and work surrounding educational equity. And sorry for the circus I brought with me. Thank you.
All right, thank you.
Congratulations.
No need to apologize for our future students.
11.3.
The Human Resources Department is bringing for the board's review and potential approval the appointment of Chris Clausen as a school support administrator, secondary. Chris has worked at MDUSD for almost 20 years. He's spent his first 8 years teaching at Concord High and the last 12 years as a high school and middle school administrator. Chris has a bachelor's degree in social science and is currently working on a master's degree in education. Chris has grown up in the district. His kids attend schools in the district, and he's looking forward to serving the community that supported him in his new broadened role. With that, I leave this appointment in the hands of the board.
Madam President, I move that the board approve the appointment of Chris Lawson as a school support administrator for the secondary level.
Second.
Dr. Clark, Board of Trustees, thank you so much. I'm eagerly looking forward to supporting the secondary team. Ryan already said this, but I grew up in this district from kindergarten on, and my kids go in this district. So I'm excited to get to serve the community that served me as I was growing up in this new capacity. So thank you.
11.4.
The Human Resources, hold on one second, make sure I didn't mess up my numbering here. Excuse me. The Human Resources Department is bringing for the board's review and potential approval the appointment of Tucker Farrar as a vice principal at Northgate High School. With a heart for students and a passion to elevate student voice, Tucker has been in education for 22 years. His career highlights as an administrator all revolve around school culture building and being an instructional leader whose goal is to support students and teachers in any way possible in creative and innovative ways. Tucker holds a bachelor's degree in science and a master's degree in educational leadership. Along with his wife of 20 years, Jennifer, Tucker enjoys spending time with and raising 3 school-age boys. A product of 12 years in Mount Diablo, Tucker is excited to return to Mount Diablo Unified School District to serve students, teachers, and the community at Northgate High School. With that, I leave this appointment in the hands of the board.
Madam President, I move that the board approve the appointment of Tucker Farrar as vice principal at Northgate High School.
Second.
Tucker was not able to make it.
Item 11.5.
The Human Resources Department is bringing for the board's review and potential approval the appointment of Joshua Gersand as the Food and Nutrition Services Culinary Manager. Josh is a third-generation Bay Area native, raising the fourth generation surrounded by family and a great community. Josh has worked in the restaurant industry off and on since his teenage years, traveling for work, chasing Michelin stars, and learning from world-class chefs. Josh now strives to share his love, knowledge, and passion for his work and all things food with the community and generations to come. With that, I leave this appointment in the hands of the board.
No one wants to pronounce his last name. Jezer Sand, is that right? Okay. Madam President,
Correct this.
I move to approve the appointment of Joshua Jezer Sand as Food and Nutrition Services Culinary Manager. I get it
Second.
right.
Dr. Clark, trustees, thank you so much. Gersand, the G silent. Thank you. It's happened my entire life. I'm so excited to be taking this position to really get a chance to use all of the skills that I've acquired over my lifetime to really share them with the next generation and this community. Thank you so much for this opportunity. This is wonderful. I'm so excited.
Thank you.
Eleven point six. Approval, review and potential approval of amendment to the employment agreement for superintendent.
Yeah, is this right?
Oh,
No,
did I?
No, she didn't skip.
No,
It's in the right
Oh,
order.
I'm sorry.
Am I right?
Yeah, you're right.
Okay,
It'll be next.
okay. These are further away. Okay. Okay. So. Does anyone present on this or is it just me? Okay, so.
Thank you, Madam Vice President, for serving as our president today.
No problem. So this item is to renew the agreement with Superintendent Dr. Clark. And there are a few key amended terms in it, and I will share a few of them. And the first is that the contract term is extended from July 1st, 2022 to June 30th, 2025. And what this does is keep it as a 3-year contract every year. So we add a year as we drop a year. The base salary will be $305,000 and the district shall contribute $24,290 annually to a supplemental retirement plan. Is there any discussion? There's no public comments. Any questions, discussion? If not, I'll entertain a motion.
I would just like to congratulate Dr. Clark on a satisfactory evaluation for the 2021-2022 school year. And with that, I move to approve the amended agreement.
Second.
That passes 4-0.
Want to thank the board for their leadership and guidance. Again, I think that we are putting out a good product for our students. And again, our students remain our primary focus here in Mount Diablo, and with supporting our staff and giving them the tools to support our students and make sure that we're using our parents as partners in this work, then I'm very excited about what the next years can bring us. So again, thank you to the board for your leadership. Thank you.
11.7, we have public comments. So I'll ask Julia Jameson.
Thank you, Vice President and Nzewi, trustees Mayo, McFerrin, and Count, and Dr. Clark. I'm here this evening. My name is Julia Jameson, and I am an English teacher at Mount Diablo High School. And I am here tonight to ask you not to approve a new principal for Mount Diablo High School this evening, not because of any information about the candidate, but simply because I have no information about the candidate. And my understanding is that no staff member or community member from Mount Diablo High School has been engaged in the selection of this candidate. Mount Diablo High School, I understand that Mr. Barbosa resigned very late in the hiring season, and I understand that there is a sense of urgency to start a new principal, but this seems to me a situation tailor-made for an interim appointment so that a thorough search with engagement of all stakeholders can be completed for an appropriate candidate. Mount Diablo High School is going to be a very hard place to be a principal. There are 3 reasons. First, our probationary WASC status. Noteworthily, communication between the district and the site and community stakeholders was an issue that was brought up by our WASC visiting committee. This is an example of a lack of engagement with stakeholders. Second, we are one of the identified CSACE schools. That is going to come with its own new set of challenges. And we obviously do have communities that need more attention at Mount Diablo High School. And I think we need some confidence that the candidate is going to be able to address those needs. Not knowing who the person is, we can't have that assurance. Third, help, what was my third? Oh, geez. Okay, I had another excellent reason. I've forgotten completely what it is. Again, because I have no information about this candidate, who I understand is sitting in the audience, my objection is absolutely not based on anything about the candidate. My objection, again, is about the process. And I think it's vitally important that the stakeholders at Mount Diablo High School are engaged before a new principal is appointed. Thank you.
Sandra Spalding.
Thank you, board members and Dr. Clark. I appreciate the time. I also am from Mount Diablo High School. I'm a teacher there. And this is a particularly difficult moment at Mount Diablo High School. And we have felt very helpless in the last few years as we tried to point out many systemic problems at Mount. We were told to take it back to our boss. And that was part of where things were coming from. So it's been very difficult to be at Mount. And we are all very demoralized because we felt very helpless and like nobody was listening. I'm sure that board member McFerrin probably felt some of that as well, but she has never told me that. So we all feel it. WASC just said they were putting us on probation and that leadership and the district leadership needed to communicate more with the staff and community members at Mount Diablo High School. So it's not in a disrespectful way at all that I'm here. It just feels a little like we got blindsided because we thought we were a part of the process and then all of a sudden we are not. You may have found the perfect candidate. This is not to disparage the candidate in any way, shape, or form or be in any way disrespectful. But I wish that the teachers who would have put themselves forward, the ones I knew were putting themselves forward, they would have known it too. And then everybody would have had such a morale boost. We are just hurting on a level that I've never experienced in 25 years in education. So I would consider asking for even just a week's pause to have a conversation with us before you officially do the approval. And thank you so much for your time.
No, that's it.
So tonight we are going to bring forward a candidate for Mount Diablo High School. We are very excited about the candidate. I'm going to have Mr. Sheehy come up and introduce him. We did send out surveys to the staff. We received 31 surveys back actually, and 30 of the surveys were very positive, and we had one that expressed concerns. So we are very comfortable moving forward. It is the superintendent's discretion to appoint. This gentleman did go through several interviews with panels, although for other positions, he was hired to be a principal within the district. And so therefore, we are very confident about bringing him forward tonight for this board. Thank you. Mr. Sheehy.
All right. The Human Resources Department is bringing for the board's review and potential approval the appointment of Dr. Markel McCain as the principal at Mount Diablo High School. Dr. McCain has been an educator for 20 years, a teacher for 8 years, and an administrator for 12 years. He has worked for West Contra Costa Unified and Pittsburgh as a teacher before heading to Antioch and later Vallejo as a vice principal and principal. Dr. McCain has a bachelor's degree in political science, a master's degree in educational leadership, and a doctorate in education leaders for social justice. Dr. McCain is excited and looking forward to continuing the work he's been doing in the educational community. Dr. McCain cannot wait to build relationships and collaborate with the other educators about best practices in instruction and social emotional learning. And with that, I leave this appointment in the hands of the board.
Madam President, I move that the board approve Markle McCain as principal at Mount Diablo High School.
Second.
No, that's out of order. I'm sorry. For public comments, you submit a yellow card prior to the item.
Dr. McCain was not available tonight.
He's
Oh,
here.
excuse me.
Good evening, Dr. Clark, board members. Can't express how excited I am to get started. I look forward to working in the community that I live in, building relationships, collaborating with the staff and teachers. Just excited about getting to work. And so you got a lot to look forward to. I'm a culture person, and that's what I believe in. So thank you.
Thank you.
Congratulations.
Thank you.
Move on to item 12.1. Staff
Okay.
present.
I was gonna say, maybe we could give our,
Yeah. I-
our,
clear
our,
the room.
our principals and newly appointed folks chance to go and rest up. No, it's quite all right. Thank you all.
It's a very entertaining room.
Yeah, bye-bye.
Bye-bye.
Bye. Thanks for
Bye.
coming, families.
All the action is gone.
Shall we
For
go
the photo
to,
op.
So we'll be moving on to item 12.1, presentation on the 2022 Universal Pre-Kindergarten Plan.
I didn't even get to get a picture with I'm for the first couple slides if you want to go. It's okay. There'll be more time.
Absolutely. So good evening, board. Dr. Clark, we are here to present our universal pre-kindergarten plan to the board and the community. So this is a plan that actually has been in the works for several months. We're going to provide some background on the plan as well as the sections that you will actually find in the document that is connected to our board item. And this is actually a very, very exciting time for the state of California as we take a look at supporting the needs of our youngest scholars. And let's see. All righty, so we're going to do a quick overview and then orient people to the plan itself. The plan that you will find online actually has 5 different sections, everything from vision and coherence all the way through to facilities and operations. And again, this is a very brief presentation, so I would absolutely encourage folks that would like to learn more to take a look at the plan, which is posted, which is around 26 or so pages. So the overview of the legislation and how did we get here and why is the state of California really wanting us to focus again on our youngest learners? Well, there has been a massive initiative to really focus on preschool to 3rd grade. And of course, as we know, there's overwhelming research about the importance of brain development in a child's earliest years. And that is not only right prior to coming to school, but during those foundational grades. The California Department of Education really seeks to elevate the role of high quality, inclusive and multilingual preschools, a strong early intervention set of services, and a P through 3 grade alignment. And really what this graphic is showing is it's really preschool through 3rd grade, which includes universal pre-kindergarten. That does not mean universal TK requirement. And I'll talk a little bit more about that. And then of course, transitional kindergarten, which is something that Mount Diablo is currently supporting. So under Assembly Bill 130, it really established an early learning initiative, which was to expand access to classroom-based pre-kindergarten programs offered by school districts. This includes a goal to allow all 4-year-olds the option, and I need to really emphasize that it is the option for families. It is not a requirement for families to attend transitional kindergarten by 25-26. The LEA funding for Mount Diablo is used to support UPK planning. It's considered an implementation grant, one-time dollars of a little bit over $4,500, so $471,000, and the funds can be encumbered through June 30th, 2024. So the key components of universal pre-K. Again, the intention is to provide all 4-year-olds access to pre-kindergarten. And again, it's not just a TK option that school districts have in their schedules. And that is why it's called UPK and not TK, because it's not compulsory. A child may choose to go to a state preschool, a Head Start, or a private provider, or stay at home with a relative or family in order to support those foundational years. TK implementation will be phased in over the next 4 years. Some districts have done it entirely. They have taken all of their youngest learners and really implemented this pretty quickly. We are phasing it in until 25-26. The facilities have the same requirements as kindergarten, and we need to make sure that we have the accommodations we need for students with unique needs. The classroom ratios that have been approved by law is really a 12-to-1 for the school year starting 22-23. And then there may be a reduction later on, a 10-to-1, but we will that will be dependent on future legislative funding. And then as of August 2023, TK teachers must have a total of 24 units of either early childhood education or early childhood development units in order to teach in a TK classroom. There are some exceptions if they are grandfathered in, which means that they have been teaching TK since 2015. And so we're going to talk a little bit about how our Human Resources Department is working towards to ensure that all of our TK teachers are properly prepared. Just an overview of the UPK timeline. On the top, you've got our birthdays as they go forward, and we are increasing, adding our youngest and youngest scholars by 2 months. We continue to move that entry birthday back. On the bottom, you're going to see that the LEA submits the required plan questions to the California Department of Education. We're required before June 30th to present to you a plan. And again, it's certainly a draft because this is evolving at the state level. By the end of August, we were required to answer some very specific questions for the state so they have an understanding about what our plan is all about. We are again trying to make sure that our teachers have that 24 units of ECE or ECD units for the teaching of TK. And then again, as we go through TK for 5th birthdays between September 2nd and June 2nd, that'll take us into 24-25 and then all the way to September 1st, which will be again that last bit of phase in 25-26. So what I'd like to do is hand over the presentation to Director Margie Callback, who's been instrumental in writing up with a team the other sections of the plan, which again is available online on the board item.
Good evening. Good evening, Dr. Clark and board members. So the plan that we have been working on writing, we started planning in January with a group from the county. So we all were participating in getting questions answered by the county and supporting all of us in writing these plans. So there are 5 sections to the plan that's on the website. So the first section is what is our vision and coherence regarding TK? So it's going to be offered at selected sites based on our enrollment, because as you can see, it's the 12-to-1. So we want to be conscious of making sure we're fiscally responsible and making sure that we are filling those classes to 24. The TK will not be combined with kindergarten anymore, where the last few years, we've been able to have TKK combos, and we won't be able to do that anymore. We're going to offer both full-day programs and also part-day TK programs. The minimum length that we need to provide is 180 minutes. We will also be offering dual language TK programs, and we will also be able to offer, we'll continue to serve through our Head Start programs, and we're going to do, as Jen showed you on the timeline, the phase-in model with our program. There's too many things for me to handle here. Thank you. You click. Okay. So the next part of our plan is to show what our projections are. So our projections are based on our Davis demographics information that we have for all of our students in the upcoming years. So as you can see before you, this past year, we had 347 students in our TK classes, and that was, again, a TKK combo. We currently, with our centralized enrollment that we're doing this year for TK, we have 450 students already registered, which is over 100 more than last year. And our projection that we hope to reach is about 581 by the time school starts. And then you can see moving forward, 833, 1,092, and then we flatten out at 1,460 at 25-26. The second section of the plan has to do with our community engagement and partnerships. And we reached out to our parent advisory committee, our DLAC committee, and our CAC, and also asked for input in LCAP. And all of these plans are together, the UPK, the ELOP, they all work together. And so we were gathering information for all of these plans as we collected those surveys for the LCAP. We also partnered with all of our daycare programs that we have on our campuses. Stephanie reached out and we had a meeting with all of them and explained what all of this is, along with the ELOP and the UPK. And then Stephanie, in addition, had follow-up meetings with several of the daycares. Our TK will be offered again, but as Jen shared, not required. We will be offering TK as the enrollment increases at more sites over the next 5 years based on enrollment. And also we want to serve our highest number of underserved students. And that goes along with expanding our CARES program to the 6 extra sites. We tried to coordinate those with the TK school sites. And then again, there'll be more information as we go along on our web page. And regular meetings will be held with our UPK educational partners. The third part of the plan is workforce recruitment and professional development. And our human resources is currently in the process of assessing the needs of our TK teachers. This past year with the TKK combos, we had 23 classes. And so of those 23 classes we have 15 compliant TK teachers, those that are grandfathered in and those that have the units. And then we have 8 that are currently in progress. We will be holding recruitment events, and we have held some of those already at the district for different times and days of the week. We have those wonderful videos that they created that show some of the TK assistants. We also are partnering with our county office for the early educational development grant to provide classes where teachers can earn up to 24 of these EC units. And then we're also working with our residency program with St. Mary's to increase the number of bilingual educators, not only for TK, but for all of our bilingual needs. We also have TK staff that we need to hire for instructional assistants, teachers, principals, and coaches. And all of these people are going to be receiving training on how to support our youngest learners. The content will include how to create a developmentally appropriate environment for these students, how to appropriately act and interact with adults and students of our younger ones. Then there are areas that are focused on literacy and language, math and science. We'll also be providing instruction on implicit bias and culturally responsive practices. We'll be serving our students with unique needs and inclusive environments. And we're going to be teaching how to do the observational pre-kindergarten assessments. We're going to be receiving a lot of support through the County Office of Ed. And we also worked with John Moon, who is the Preschool Instructional Network Coordinator. He was on all of our meetings at the county. And then there will be also regular TK teacher meetings. The next slide shows the projected workforce needs that we anticipate having based on those enrollment numbers that I shared with you. So this past year, we had 23 classes. We're predicting to have 22 to 24 this year, 35 in 23, 24, 45 in 24, 25, and 60 in 25, 26. And in the event that the state changes those ratios, our numbers will have to be adjusted accordingly. The next section in the plan is about the curriculum, instruction, and assessment. And we built the plan based on the California Department of Education's Preschool Learning Foundations framework. And it's important to note that the preschool doesn't have standards. They're basically based on all the foundational skills. So there's some listed resources there that we use, the California Preschool Learning Foundations and Preschool Curriculum Foundations. The TK is the one and only that has next generation actual science standards. And then we have 4 domains that we are addressing: school, social emotional learning, language and literacy, English language development, and mathematics. In the dual language, there will be the 50-50 model. And then we also used Inclusion Works, the 2nd edition, will be used to support the curriculum. Professional development is going to be focused on foundations of pre-kindergarten learning. And we have partnered with Region 4 Bay Area Preschool Instructional Network. And we're going to be using the MTSS, and then our assessments will be the DRDP and the ESGI. The last section of the plan deals with facilities and operations. And we have a master plan that I worked with Melanie Koslow on to make sure that we have enough space for our projected classroom needs by 2026. And we do. Our space is required to meet the same kindergarten standards that we have. And we also need to make sure that we have the adaptive equipment, assistive technology, et cetera, for our students who have IEPs. We also have made sure that we're assessing our kindergarten playground apparatus to make sure that they meet the 2 to 5 age group requirements. Transportation will be provided to TK students if they have that in their IEP plans. And all students will have access to our meals and adequate time to eat. And then there's the last slide again, just shows that facilities needs, which I already covered. And we should be able to meet that based on what we looked at for facilities, that we will have that space available. And Jen is now going to take it back over and talk about how this integrates with ELOP.
So just last month, you approved the Extended Learning Opportunities Program Plan, and that really talked about how we were going to extend our school days in order to support all of our learners, really first focusing on our underserved student groups and wherever they're located across the district. TK needs to be included in this planning, and as if you were to look back at that plan and you take a look at the plan that's before you tonight for presentation, you're going to see that our youngest learners are incorporated into the planning process. Again, participation is optional, but we do need to have the option for TK students to be involved in the extended learning opportunity classes and courses and at our school sites. TKK ratio in this program is a 1 to 10. So it is a little bit less than what we have in our TK classes. That is something that is dictated by the ELOP plan itself. Again, those folks that would like to learn more about this plan, it was approved on May 11th, 2022. And we are being audited beginning the 22-23 school year. They are giving us a little bit of grace because they understand what a heavy lift this is, but the requirements is we cannot isolate our TK students from having an extended learning. So this is something that is available. And as Director Callback did mention, there was very thoughtful planning made as we were identifying some of these schools that were going to extend their day to have it also at sites where there were TK classrooms across our district. It needs to be a 9-hour day, which is very long for our youngest learners, but it is there available. Students are not required to attend every single day. They're not even required to stay the full 9-hour day. This is a requirement for the district that we have to at least offer that. Within the ELOP program, it does involve school year extended day as well as some intersession and summer. So our TK students could be involved in that as well if they would like. It is going to be offered on site at schools with the highest numbers of underserved students. So that is certainly in the planning process, and we are taking a look at some before school program options as we go into the 22-23 school year. So that was extremely quick of an overview. We were trying to be very thoughtful about the number of presentations on our agenda tonight. Just as a closing comment, this is something, this plan in itself and how we're addressing the needs of these very, very, very young scholars. It's evolving, it's morphing, we're learning a lot from it. It's one thing to take the students that have birthdays in the early fall, but as we continue to push back the birthdays, we're going to have some very, very young humans that we are going to have to support. And they're very different and their schedules need to be different. And we have to be very flexible and very thoughtful about the developmental milestones that we focus on and those foundations rather than the standards. So we are working very closely with our county as a very, very tight community to make sure some of these 48-month-old scholars are ones that are going to get a solid foundation so that they can achieve academically as they go through our system. But again, the TK option is something that we are looking at, but it's not something required for families. Families will have the choice. So thank you. We're available for any questions.
Should let trustee and we go first on this one.
Relax.
I just wanted to say, great work. This is a ton of work to put together and a really big, important project. I'm really happy to see the preparation and inclusion of students with disabilities in these classes. Really excited to see that the facilities are ready and available. I know that's always a question and a concern. Do we have the right size toilets in the right places and all of that? So knowing that we have that ready for the next few years is really great to see. I think my main question was just around play-based learning. That's something that I've been able to observe in some of our TK classrooms as best practice. And I saw in under professional development, it said developmentally informed environment and developmentally effective teacher-child interactions. And then under social emotional learning, it did mention promote learning through play with teachers and peers. So is that what the PD wording means as well? Just to clarify.
Yes, and what's been really, really fantastic is our individual that is at the County Office of Education. John Moon has been entirely working with TK since it's in existence in 2013-14, right? Even before we were required to offer it. So the thought behind it is, yes, that play-based learning is incredibly important. What we know, however, right now is we need a better sense about what's happening across our systems in our TK classrooms. So in the plan itself, it does talk about a bit of an audit that we're going to be doing, bringing our TK teachers together. We actually have some individuals within our system that do teach these development appropriate classes for universities. And so we've got a wonderful, a group of team members that can assist us with that to ensure that we're very clear about what does that mean? Especially as folks are still earning those ECE units and we're getting them up to date. So this is something that we do know that we need to be very conscious of and that we do need to provide some very targeted professional development in, because we've had so many TKK classrooms and this is a very different way of instructing students.
Wonderful. That's great to hear. As a parent too, I just know it really is a very specific skill for a teacher to be able to manage that style. So thank you.
Okay, my turn. Thank you so much for ending it with reminding us that by the time we phase this in, we will have 48-month-old children on these really big school campuses that in no way are built for them. And the state, I would argue, is not doing much to help districts prepare to be able to welcome a 48-month-old child who still needs naps, who still wets their pants, and just all that goes with someone who is young enough to articulate their age in the number of months. I also really appreciate that you're bringing up the importance of adult-child interaction. I feel like CDE forgets this. I really do. CDE, they know who I am and they may or may not like me some days, but when it comes to early care and education, and what I think we have to realize is there is already a very well-prepared workforce outside of the K through 12 system that has been caring and educating children of this age forever. None of us went to TK or pre-K, sorry. None of us, we were cared for and educated at this age by people who went to school or went into their life wanting to care for children 0 till they reach kindergarten.
Right.
And our K through 12 workforce most of them haven't prepared to educate this age, which is why you have the professional development in there. But I just want to remind all of us that there are people who just don't have a teaching credential, who have been doing this work forever. Most of them, it began with Black women at the time of slavery, and it goes until today to mostly women who are not white. Our early care and education workforce actually reflects our California's demographics of children being 75% not white, whereas our K through 12, TK through 12 workforce is 75% white women. Our early care and education existing workforce is more aligned with our linguistic needs of these children and cultural needs. And so what I hope that comes from TK as parents choose this, especially because we're going to be offering a full day. 9 hours is a long day, but these kids are already in childcare that long. As we offer a full day option of TK, which I think is fabulous, especially for families who already have a school-age child. So now they can bring them together and take them home together. That's going to be a fabulous choice for many families. But that we don't start early, especially with Black children and other children of color, to start that we are working very hard not to have in our district, the school to prison pipeline, or that we start very early to squash that love of learning. I gave a presentation a few months ago called UTK, How Are We Not Gonna Mess This Up? And the example is in Tennessee, where a lot of kids that they had, those that attended their well, it was limited universal only because of limited space, but that they had much worse outcomes in 3rd grade and 6th grade, and a lot of it around discipline. And those areas of discipline were because, as I mentioned earlier, our buildings aren't, and our way of doing school aren't meant for children so young that we still expected them to stand in line and to be still and to not touch each other. And they have to go somewhere to go to the bathroom. Oftentimes, if it's not in the classroom, they have to go somewhere to eat. Whereas the facilities that were already created for them, that's not the case. So it was a very hard transition. And then we are moving in the opposite direction. But over the 10 years that this happened in Tennessee, we turned to pulling kids out in school suspension and all of that. And so I think that these challenges are things we have to be aware of, and consistently help our staff not to turn to, and to be well trained, and to realize that this is care more than education, that care is education, because they are so young, and it's really that adult-child interaction and connection that I think will really set these youngest little ones up for success as they grow and enter more academic settings at school. And I had one more thing. I'm passionate, you know this, that I can't remember. Well, what? I don't need to say that. I'll end there. And this is great. I think we've done like the absolute best job we could possibly do with what we've been given. You had 6 months to pull this together. That's ridiculous. I mean, it's ridiculous if that's what the requirement was, that for whatever reasons, which I don't believe it's what's best for children. I don't think that was the guiding principle. Whatever reason, we had to do this quickly. Like, how amazing, even more amazing would it be if it was next year? So this is, as you said, an extremely heavy lift that I'm so appreciative for. I know, as I see what's going on across the state, that you are far and ahead of other districts in consideration that these are really little people. So thank you. And thank you I'm the president today, for giving me all this time. So thank you.
I just wanted to say, I'm glad you used the word care. What came to my mind was mothering and nurturing, because these small children still need a lot of that very close and intense TLC. Having gone through preschool recently in a co-op situation with my grandson, it reconnected me with that age group and how much I love that interaction. But at the same time, recognizing how frustrating their tolerances and their outbursts can be, and they just don't have the capability of controlling it, and it will be difficult for many of them. My heart kind of breaks in a way for that situation, because I know some children will have more difficulty than others. I was wondering, once a parent enrolls their child in the program and they discover that it's not best suited for the family, not that, you know, we are as a district are having challenges with the student, when can they withdraw, because you said it was optional, and then for the district, it's counted as a dropout? But it was something that came to my mind. Or do we know yet?
Well, you know, if we take a look at TK and K, it's not compulsory.
Right.
And so when we talk about dropouts, usually what we take a look at and we're required to report are things in middle school and in high school. So with our youngest learners, if they come in and it's not the best choice for them, this happens. And so
Right.
they end up either taking a little bit more time and maybe cycling back and boomeranging the next year. So this is something where some folks might certainly try, and then they realize that this might be too much for their little one, and they decide, you know what, we'll see you next year. So
Yes, I hope that we are able to handle those families that make that decision in the most compassionate way possible, because they will have built their hopes on this opportunity for a variety of reasons, whether it's work related or whether they really want this opportunity
It's
for their
free.
child. It's free, all of those things. Anyway, I applaud you and I thank you for doing this. I look forward to visiting the classrooms when we get that far. And it's going to be an exciting time. Oh, I wanted to say one other thing. I'm glad to see in the document that there's a call out for meals and adequate time to eat those meals. Because my experience this last 3 years is that we had to sit and read with a child before they would eat. You know, that was an activity that was happening. And I don't know that everyone is prepared to do that with all children in our schools.
And, you know, Trustee Mayo, that also brought to mind the flip side. So some families may leave the program midway through. I think because it's so new, we may have a lot of signups right before school starts or right as school's starting. So I hope that we have some sort of a contingency plan for that, and how and where we would place them to ensure there's space for if that happens.
The challenges of build it and they will come.
build it and they will come. Absolutely. Okay, thank you. And again, it was certainly a team effort. Human resources, curriculum and instruction, maintenance and operations, elementary education, our grant writer. So just want to make sure everyone's recognized.
12.2.
And here I am again. So I really want to represent Lainey Klein King, who was instrumental in putting together this presentation. This presentation is on our outdoor garden space program, otherwise known as Growing Healthy Kids. Actually, Trustee Mason was an individual that really did want to bring this back, especially as we were looking at contracts for the future, to make sure that we were really focusing in on return on investment and what was happening and what data we were collecting. I also want to recognize Melanie Kozlow and Dominic Mochi, because we are certainly partners in this effort. So as we go through the program itself, Growing Healthy Kids, it's something where we teach NGSS in the garden. We utilize these outdoor space. We utilize it as phenomena-based education. This last year, we have done actually 4th grade field trips to the cafeteria, as well as to our fabulous garden space at Riverview Middle School. It allows us to be super visible, focusing on the nature in our spaces. It engages the wider community. And then the nature and garden education is at all actually Title I schools, because they have access to our field trips. And it's something where we have really built up over the last year. We have 16 schools that were served by this program, and it doesn't mean they have their own outdoor garden program or their NGSS in the garden program. While Growing Healthy Kids daytime garden education program runs at 10 schools, the program has a broader reach this year, again, because of the field trips and the community outreach events. Silverwood actually received a garden grant for funding and will be added as one of our sites going into the 22-23 school year. And again, over 7,000 students served. This slide really talks about the different types of programs and what we've been involved in this year. The garden and nutrition education classes occurred at 9 elementary and 1 middle school. The new program components were added this year. The 4th grade field trips were huge to the cafeteria and began for core garden education sites. And at all remaining Mount Diablo education or elementary schools will receive them in the fall of 2022. So we want to make sure that all of our elementary schools have the same opportunity. Reaching more students was certainly a goal. This has been a focus specifically at our Title I schools as we move forward. And this slide really illustrates which schools are receiving which program services. This is actually a way we actualize the Mount Diablo wellness policy by serving as many sites as possible with really the goal of growing healthy kids. And this is really connected to the presentation that was done on June 8th and really section number 1 about nutrition, education, and linking that in throughout our school sites. Just some great pictures of our field trips to the cafeteria, our farm stands, as well as activities at our Riverview Garden site. Again, wanting to make sure we are making data-driven decisions and really collecting from our consumers, how is this program working out? And so we did do a survey at the end of this year. We've got a bunch of different school sites, 9 school sites represented, over 123 teachers actually submitted their thoughts through the survey. And they were through all the different grades. We want to make sure that at different schools, we tailor the program to their needs. At some schools, it's with the little ones, more of a primary. At other schools, it's the entire board, TK all the way up through grade 5. So we wanted to make sure that we had a wide range of responses. Super small there, but if you take a look at the right-hand column, teachers confirmed the curriculum and topics linked most in the gardens were 86% said science concepts around plants and animals, nutrition and wellness concepts, and then science concepts around observation, investigation, and experimentation. So again, the Healthy Kids is really hitting the target goals in teaching NGSS and the California State Health Standards in the garden. And again, that mindfulness and that connection to social emotional learning. When the kids are outside, some of them turn into entirely different little individuals, given that space and just that different environment. More than half of the responding teachers indicated that the following topics were actually taught in the garden. So earth and weather, of course, writing and journaling, collaborative discussions. At one of our sites, their garden program is very, very much targeted towards English language development. Another site, it's very connected to STEM. Another site, it's more of a sensory garden. So each site, really the focus is just a little bit different based on the local context. Here, teachers agreed or strongly agreed to the following statements. The top 3, garden education improves students' connection to the natural world. It improves students' enthusiasm for learning and improve their scientific knowledge and NGSS concepts, which of course was one of our basic goals of the program when we started, 6-7 years ago. Teacher comments about the program. I'm just going to read 1 or 2. It was great to see students eat healthy and be excited about healthy food. Please keep this program. We love to go and journal and draw, take pictures, eat, and learn in the garden. And then, of course, my kids love being outside with hands-on activities. And again, that's something that I think we talked a little bit about with our pre-K plan, is that just that hands-on, that play, that experience that they can have without necessarily a book in their hand. Cooking lessons continued safely despite the pandemic. And the program adopted a clear set of guidelines for cooking and lessons so students could engage in the program during the winter. And this is an exceptional point of this program, because in many districts, without these protocols in place, once winter hits and everything goes to dormant in the garden, suddenly, oh, we're going to take a hiatus, we're going to pause. That's not part of our program. We continue, we just bring it inside, and they're able to engage in other types of activities. We had one of our middle schools start off this year. 21-22 was the first year that Growing Healthy Kids offered curriculum at the middle school level, and we started it at Grove Middle School. The garden proved most beneficial actually in that setting for social emotional well-beings, as well as science and nutrition concepts were taught. Art was actually something the students responded to most in the garden, and the respondents overwhelmingly felt that the social emotional benefits of garden education were as important, if not more so, than the science and nutrition education concepts that were taught in the garden. And I think after this year, we know that, settled students, of course, learn better. And that was an area that we were all really taking a look at any different way to serve our students. Oak Grove respondents agreed or strongly agreed. And I'm just going to take a look at those first three that were 100% of the respondents really felt like it improved students' connection to the natural world. Again, the focus on learning and engaging in critical thinking, which actually I think surprised us when we looked at that. But that was something that the teachers were able to see after their time in the outside spaces. We have had some really positive program visibility this year. We actually had something in the fall, which was the first partner visit with Jennifer Newsom. And some of you were actually able to attend that. And then later on in the winter, a group of us were invited to Denver for the Growing School Garden Summit. And so you see the team that we were presenting, or the team that was presenting, and what we were highlighting there, which is actually, there was standing room only in our session, really had to do with how do these different departments interdepartmentally support one another in order to make sure this is a sustainable program. And then in the bottom corner, Growing Healthy Kids Workshops, that was a spring event and that occurred at El Monte. And it was a great way to have some community visitors there in order to see our space and be involved in some stations. I'm actually growing cacti in front of my house right now because of it. So some next steps, Life Lab. We are partnering with Life Lab as one of our nonprofit partners, and we've been working with them for many years, and they are actually helping us with a fiscal sponsorship by which we are actually hoping to get into a full contract with them so they can help manage all of our individual independent service contractors. They can help really provide a structure for professional development and support. And so they have massive programs down in the Pajaro Valley, out of Santa Cruz. And so we're very excited about that relationship. The garden education, professional development, of course, that will all continue. And of course, our strong collaboration with food service on local farm partnerships. Really, we've got some great local farmers in the Bay Point area, as well as other areas of our community to really connect with them and make sure that fresh produce tasting continues. Lastly, we are working on a California Department, a Food of Agriculture grant to secure additional funding to help expand this work and increase food production within Mount Diablo in order to get fresh local produce into our salad bars that we're really hoping are going to be open super, super soon, if they're not already open, but we'll see. And of course, this work could not be done if we did not have a ton of community partners. It's a huge thank you to the school board, as well as our partners and our school sites, our PTAs, our PFCs, our school site councils, those folks that really make decisions on where do they want their funding to go, because this program would not be able to continue without all of these folks' support and our school sites really incorporating these lessons within their school day. So I'm available for any questions.
Thank you so much. Are there any questions?
No questions, just super excited about the program as usual and the way that it's expanding and growing and collaborating, across all the different silos that exist in our system to really provide these opportunities for our students. Thanks.
Thank you. Anti-bias, anti-racist advisory committee presentation, ABAR.
Yeah, we have Dr. Stuckey Smith, who a little over a year ago took over this endeavor to really create a committee that was well represented and could help address some of the issues that we're not only facing in the district, but in our communities at large. So really want to thank Dr. Stuckey for her leadership and sticking through the process. I know there's been some times where we've wanted to go in some different directions, but you really have kept us on the straight and narrow, and we're looking forward to the presentation. So thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Clark. I want to welcome, I wanted to say thank you to everyone, first and foremost, to our board, as well as our superintendent. I have standing very close to me is our very committed committee. And I just wanted to share, we have representation, Nicole Nakasato. as a CST, as well as my right hand. We have Dorothy Weisenberg, who is the chair of CAC. Dr. Wendy Gilly's not standing, but she's with us too, and you know her very well. We have the parent, Noel Cummings, that's with us, as well as another parent, Kimberly Clark. But we have a special guest, Gabriel Joseph is a rising 8th grader at Valley View. He's here with his mom, but he's the reason why we're here. I'll just say that, as well as a principal representing many of the principals that are a part of the committee, and that's Carolyn Hull, who's the principal of Fair Oaks Elementary School. I think I got all my beautiful people. Today, what I like to just share, or this evening, I like to just share with you sort of our inspiration behind our work and some of the work that we've done. And I would be remiss to not also acknowledge some of the board members who have been are members of the committee, and I thank you for your support of us. Am I clicking? Let me see if I got it. So our beginnings was March 2021. And we started with inviting whomever in our community, in our district, whoever wanted to be a part. Nicole sent many invites out, and I also received requests to send invites out. So we were inviting people. We met monthly with Zoom meetings because we started in the pandemic, but we're going to come out of that pandemic there. What was some of the things we did was have some courageous conversations, raising questions, and I'll share one of the questions what was raised and our work behind that. We had surveys asking the committee and various people, what did they see, what did they want this to be, the whole formation there. And today we're going to present some actionable items to you. So as we step back, and we look at where we were last year and the year before as a country, as a nation, as a community, we would be remiss without acknowledging that social justice and some of the things that happen as a result in our country, in our area, was happening. And so this is actual a visual of what we were seeing. And who was connecting in that particular sense, but we were seeing racism on the rise. We were seeing implicit bias. We were seeing hate in our schools and our community. And we wanted to make it a priority that we would not continue to be a community that didn't first acknowledge it, and second of all, have some actionable items there. So our next thing we did is when we met, we wanted to look at, well, what is our purpose? Who are we? Who do we want to be? Who we believe in? Who are we not in terms of forming this group? What is the good that we're going to do? What must we do? And our focus again on our students, our staff, our parents, guardians, and our community. So we came up with a mission statement, and our mission statement I'm sharing with you is the purpose of the Anti-Bias, Anti-Racist, or ABAR Advisory Committee shall be to examine issues related to bias, racism, and inequity in the district, to actively guide the district in continuously identifying, describing, and dismantling the systemic racism and oppression embedded within our schools and our communities. Through the combined efforts of staff, students, and community members, the committee will collectively develop actionable steps for the work needed to transform our systems and policies and make recommendations to the governing board on issues related to bias, racism, and inequity. We also, as a committee, established our goals, and I've given our 3 goals up there. One is to implement and develop a culturally responsive teaching curriculum within all sites to empower our students and our staff to speak out against racism and bias. Number 2 was to recommend mandatory ongoing equity training for all staff. And number 3 is to examine MDUSD's policies, practices where systemic racism may exist and address said policies and practices to prevent the perpetuation of racism and inequity on our campuses. We also established group norms of how we as a committee wanted to function there. And so I've listed those 5 that are there, but one of the ones we always want to look at is respect the views and experiences of others. And also another one was be willing to self-reflect on your own biases and belief system. During one of our courageous conversations, we raised the question where we wanted to, as a group, identify areas where we felt bias and racism exist in MDUSD, whether it was district level, whether it was site level, whether it was departments, we wanted to call it out. And so at one of our meetings, when raising questions, this is a list of things that came up. With the list, which I'll go over, we also identified if we wanted to make a change, which department or group would be responsible for us to have that relationship with to make those recommendations. So when we looked at disproportionality and identifying African-American students as special ed or students with an IEP, we looked at the special ed department as well as our equity department. The curriculum does not reflect the diversity of our student population. We felt that that was something we needed to address with the Educational Services Department. The curriculum centers whiteness and shows limited perspectives of historical events. That again, we were looking at our Educational Services Department. Literature choices for school curriculum, kind of see a pattern. We're looking again to our Educational Services Department. When we look at the N-word and other racial slurs on campus, when we talk about our policies and procedures, that's where we need to probably take a look at our board policy and how we would look at that or address that as it relates to hate speech or violence. We looked at another thing that was mentioned is disciplinary policies being carried out differently from different schools, and I'll own that because that was an issue with student services, and we know that we need to address that and working and training our staff there. The strategies and availability of support services between schools based on data. We said, well, first of all, we're going to look to our MTSS, which is our multi-tiered systems of support. We're going to look to equity, and we know the two are working together also with student services, but we're also going to look at our fiscal department. Hiring and retention of diverse staff. We were looking to our HR department. Culturally relevant professional development. We're looking at professional development. We're looking at HR, and we're looking at that professional development possibly coming through our equity department. ELD supports for students and training for teachers to meet their needs. We were looking at our English learners department. And then next, not having a safe way for students, families, staff to report incidences of bias and racism. We're still looking for that department, but we're going to acknowledge that that is an issue and a concern in which we would like to address and have some clarity on the reporting system. So our next piece is once we did that, we go back to our mission statement, and our mission statement says through the combined efforts of staff, students, and community leaders, the committee will collectively develop actionable steps for the work needed to transform our systems and policies and make recommendations to the governing board on issues related to bias, racism, and equity. So we are making one recommendation to our governing board. We're going to make 4 recommendations to our business service department, 3 recommendations to our educational services department, and 4 recommendations to our human resources department. So for our governing board, we would like the committee to be acknowledged as a district committee. So we're asking you to approve the anti-bias, anti-racism advisory committee becoming an official district committee beginning with the 2022-2023 school year. Our next recommendation that we want to take to our business services department are 3 recommendations. One is to use equity lenses on all budget decisions, especially when creating or cutting programs that disproportionately affect students of color and students with disability. So any budget cuts or any creation of programs, we would like that equity lens coming from our business department. The next thing is we want our business department to be transparent and fully disclose the impact of funding for all students. The third one is we want our business department to allocate ongoing funds for all district staff professional development that further growth in equity, diversity, and inclusion, implicit bias, unconscious bias, microaggressions, eliminating racism in the workplace and our schools. So this is our recommendation again to our business part. Not to say that they're not doing it, it's to say this is our recommendation as we move forward. Our next set of recommendations goes to our educational services department, and we want to highlight curriculum and in particular literature. And as we do our adoptions for our curriculum and materials or selections, this is what we want. We want, not to say that they do not, but this is what a recommendation again as we move forward. One is to select and adopt literature from diverse authors whose views reflect district goals and beliefs. Number 2 is literature taught in schools is determined by literature taught in schools is determined by the school districts, which CDE tells us. For Mount Diablo, we want the selection process for recommended literature should not only explain the procedures it uses, but also reflects our commitment to teaching anti-bias, anti-racist views, honoring diverse authors with divergent views. That's a mouthful. Number 3, we want our educational services department to select material that present multiple perspectives and narratives that are representative of and accurately depict our diverse student population. And our 4th one for our Ed Services Department is to include, when we look at our literary genres, fiction and nonfiction, wanted to make sure it honors and celebrates diverse perspectives throughout the entire year, not just one month. All right, so Human Resource Department, get ready. Number 1 for them, they got 3, we probably have 10 for them, but we're gonna do 3 tonight, okay? One is we want to see our Human Resources Department develop recruiting practices and pathways with specific strategies used to attract, hire, and retain highly qualified staff who reflect the rich diversity of our students and families. And we want to put an emphasis as it relates to attract, hire, and retain. And we know we have many highly qualified, but we want to make sure that they actually reflect the rich diversity of our students and families. Number two, we're coming strong with is that we want it to be a mandate that anti-bias training as a condition of employment. Just as we are mandated to do bloodborne pathogens, child abuse, harassment, we want an anti-bias training to be mandated with ours. And it can be online, or we could have trainers come in, but we're asking that each year, condition of employment would be this type of training. And number three, give priority to hiring and retaining highly qualified staff in schools serving our underserved and low performing students. Because many times we're seeing the priority based on maybe contract or based on ed code is not always the focus on some of our schools that have the highest turnover and some of our schools that the students are lower performing schools. So these are our 3 recommendations for our HR department. We'll come back with more, but at this time, we want to thank you for your support of our committee. We want to invite all interested parents, staff, community leaders, and you're out there and I see you. We're encouraging you to attend our future meetings. Our future meetings will be posted on the website. We do have a page on our website that talks about ABAR committee, as well as our mission statement, and we will continue to recruit and have these wonderful, courageous conversations and some hopefully actionable items to bring forward. So this time next year, we won't be in the same place we are now, but we will be a better district as we serve our students and continue to serve our students. So leaving with educating the mind without educating the heart is no education at all. And so I want to make sure we're well-rounded in our decision-making and make sure we keep our focus on our children and support of our children and making sure they're successful. And there's our star for success there. And I am concluding by seeing if there's any additional questions or questions that you have of our committee and continuing to recruit wonderful minds.
Thank you so much. Are there any comments or questions?
I just want to say thank you to everyone who's involved with the committee for all your time and efforts and hard work on this. And it's really great to see some concrete recommendations coming forward so that we can begin to take action on these items. And I can see that some of them are ones where the actions have already been in motion, like the diversifying our English novels and the committees that worked on that specifically. So it's really great to see us moving in the forward direction. Thank you.
Thank you.
I just want to thank you, Dr. Stuckey Smith, for moving this slow moving barge for over a year now. Yeah. I feel like the starting date was before you said, before the first slide.
The first meeting.
Yeah, yeah. So thank you, and thank you to all the folks on the committee, many of whom are in the audience, who have been sticking with it since for over a year now. So I really appreciate all of that hard work. So we have the opportunity to entertain a motion to approve the anti-bias, anti-racism advisory committee. Oh, are we approving the recommendations or the committee as a district committee?
Both, if that's okay, Dr. Clark. Okay.
Well, it's an info action item. Again, it's not specific if we are approving them as a committee or if we're officially accepting the recommendations. Again, they are recommendations, and so of course we have we have other entities to work through before those recommendations can be met or are met. So it's the board's will of what you would like to do here at this particular time.
Madam Vice President, I would like to move to approve the acceptance of the Anti-Bias, Anti-Racism Advisory Committee recommendations.
Second.
So I do have a question. And I was going to discuss this later with the committee, but now that we're moving forward with the motion to adopt the committee, which I am certainly in support of, I just have a question about the items listed under budget and finance services. I can appreciate that these objectives are important for every department across our district. But I'm not sure that the budget and the fiscal department bears the sole responsibility for implementing these. For example, the equity lens on budget decisions when creating programs, those programs in my thought, and this is where I haven't been involved in the discussion, often originate at school sites, at site councils, or maybe they originate in ed services somewhere, or maybe even the special ed department. They're not identified and developed by the budget department. So I see this as belonging across more departments than just fiscal, if I'm making sense.
Thank you.
And the cutting the programs, yes, the fiscal department may have to say that, you know, they are charged with identifying things in the budget and they would need to look for the disproportionality. But that information and data will have to come from those departments that are managing that program. For example, if it's, I don't know what can I think of real quickly, an art program, how many students are participating in the art department in the program? If there's only 5, you know, is that a fiscal decision, or, you know, how does it affect the disproportionality? So I think there's more owners to that particular item. The number 2, transparent and fully disclose the impact of funding for our schools. That's certainly appropriate, but that report can only be as valid as the information that they receive from the program itself. And we do not necessarily spend all the time we should in evaluating our programs. That's something that I think could do a much better job of. And the staff development, does that belong to the budget department or does it belong to HR? So I think that, you know, perhaps even all of these can be moved. What do I want to say? They're fluid between the different assignments. And that would be my opinion.
The collective effort.
I don't disagree with them. I just think there's
More
Right,
onus in more than one department.
right.
And just so we're clear, the business department doesn't make cuts. It usually comes out of the curriculum and instruction department, working with principals,
Right.
working with our data. And then what the business department does is just solely give us the numbers and the financial aspect of it, but not the actual, these are programs or services that we're looking to reduce. So
Thank you for saying it
Yeah.
more eloquently than I
no,
did.
that's all right. We understood, but
Yeah, and I think there are definitely a lot of things to consider as we think about these recommendations and how to move forward, move them into action. Like I was saying before, I think some of them, some actions have already been taken on some of the recommendations.
Certainly.
And then the committee, the recommendation to approve the official committee, there are specific steps through our board policy for how to do that. And that involves also defining the structure of the committee as well. And, you know, is it going to be similar to our CAC? Is it going to be similar to our PAC? There are different structures of these committees and how you define who's on them and all that sort of thing. So, so I think as for tonight, we're simply accepting the recommendations formally to then be able to consider how best to move forward, is my understanding.
yeah, and just so everyone knows, committees such as CAC, that is something that we're required to have, or DLAC, we're required to have that. And so again, this is a committee that there isn't any state mandate out there that we are required to have this committee, but this is clearly something that we are committed to, to recognizing formally or whatnot. We just want to make sure we go through the correct process to do that. So I would suggest that the board, make a motion and a vote to officially accept the recommendations, and then we as a leadership team can provide the board with updates on where we are with the ABAR recommendations. And again, we can dice some of those things out in terms of which departments or things. I mean, things like with HR, we have collective bargaining agreements that might limit some of the things we can do. But then on the other hand, there are some activities that we can do to retain, attract, and hire individuals. That's already kind of been our mission, but we can formalize that more and really get data to be able to report back to the board, which was really stemmed from the recommendations coming from ABAR. So that's what I would recommend.
Well, we do have a motion and a second on the floor to do just that. So I think, are we cool? Yep. We can go ahead and vote. 4-0.
Thank you.
12.4 business department updates.
This is going to be a really super fast tag team tonight on a number of things that have been happening over in business services. So we're all going to take an opportunity here. Step forward. We're all going to take an opportunity here to do a little bit of sharing tonight, just to give you some updates as to what's been going on in business services. So to start with, we just want to make sure that everybody understands which departments comprise business services. So we've got everything from facilities to fiscal to food nutrition. The mailroom actually falls under our purview. Maintenance and operation, the print shop, purchasing, warehouse, technology, and transportation. Who's got BHAGs? I've got BHAGs. BHAGs, big, hairy, audacious goals. We love the work of Jim Collins. We decided that we were going to take this on about 2 years ago. And we worked for a couple of months to come up with these 5 big principles. This is what we want to stand for as a department. This is what we work toward. Every single one of our agendas is focused on one of these 5 things, that we want to be 5-star communicators throughout our departments, that we want to be proactive, and we want to make sure that we're trying to do as much as possible to help school sites so that we're not reacting, but we're trying to think of the problems that they're going to have before they ever have them. One mission, one team. We do not believe in silos. The cohesiveness and the success of the departments and the leaders behind me are because every single day they are working to make sure that our relationships are super tight, whether it is text messages, phone calls, carrier pigeon, you name it. The individuals behind me and those who are not here this evening are all about working together. We set the bar high. We want to be a destination team that others in other districts want to come to. We want to be the trendsetters. We want to be the ones that are out there identifying the research and are really the ones that others look up to as being the leaders in every single one of our areas. Outstanding customer service, first and foremost. We want to make sure that we are leaving the individuals that we interact with a positive experience. That's our goal. We may not always achieve it, and the last couple of years have been really challenging for us to be super 5-star in that area, but that is absolutely one of our goals and something that every single leader in our department is committed to. So here's what we're going to do. What we've done is on each one of these slides, we've broken it into 3 areas: accomplishments, potential challenges, and goals for 22-23. We're not going to speak to all of these. We're each going to highlight 1 or 2 things that are important to us. But in regards to facilities, One of the biggest accomplishments was creating a deferred maintenance plan. We haven't had one in many years. It's going to guide all of our work. All of our funding falls under that, and we can actually move projects forward. So from the facilities perspective, that is really one of our biggest accomplishments this year.
Hi, board members, Dr. Clark. I'm so nervous speaking in front of people.
We're just people.
Accomplishment. We are really happy that we could contribute providing data to have the raise for everyone. Every board meeting, every comments, questions, we really listened. And we thought about it. We went back, analyzed every funds, resource, program, every object line items, we analyzed it and we aligned. It was a little different from how fiscal department has been doing, but we really listened, all the comments and show the data to reflect real picture. And we were really happy that we could provide the data. Oh, just one? I had so many.
There's a lot they can go back and read on the slide. Okay.
Good evening. So Food and Nutrition Services, in the 2021 school year, we served 3.9 million meals. We increased our local procurement from serving grass-fed beef patties, uncured hot dogs, local produce, which we'll continue to do that work, as Ms. Sack said, as part of the nutrition education and our local procurement. Goals is a healthy vending machine for staff, farm to school procurement. Chef training programs is very important, and our potential challenges are always labor shortages and supply chain issues.
Let's just show who follows instruction. So the maintenance and operation goals for 22-23 is really to implement that 3-division model that I've come forward and shared with you. We are doing the work. We are excited about the work. We're engaging our school site administrators, our co-administrators, our unions, our employees, and we're just really excited for what's going to come from it for the over the next year. So thank you.
Good evening. Elizabeth McClanahan, Director of Purchasing and Warehouse. So I have to give the biggest accomplishment to my warehouse team. They turned around, we got a lot of requests saying we need better service, we need faster turnaround. And we went from a 2-week turnaround to delivering your supplies and goods to a 2 to 3 day turnaround. And much of that this last quarter was with one person. So we totally rock it. So I applaud them, and I'm looking forward to my 22-23 goals.
Good evening, everybody. I will just focus. I always like to look forward, so I'll focus on a goal of ours in technology, and may not be as exciting as it might sound, certainly from my world, but we are working to establish modern technology standards, which really we're doing from an equity lens, because I think it's really important, and our department thinks it's really important to make sure that we can provide technology across the district to every student in an equitable way. And so to do that really requires that we standardize on equipment that we know works, that we know can be supported by the really skeleton crew that we have, and really we can move forward with supportable, sustainable technologies for our kids. And Chris offered me free transportation across the district for the year to present for him. So I will actually, so again, I'll focus on goals. And I think actually, to be honest, I think the transportation department under Chris's leadership has really achieved this goal already, which is transparent stakeholder communication across multiple platforms. I've really seen that his department's been excellent with communicating their value and also making sure that they're engaging with stakeholders in their needs.
From the CBO's office, just looked at accomplishments and goals, and I think the most important one is accomplishment on the left-hand side, number 3. Notable accomplishments with response to the FCMAT fiscal health and risk analysis. We have that coming forward tonight in 2 items from now. But I think what's most important is FCMAT gave us a number of recommendations. And when their team came in and in July of last year issued their report, our score was a 39.3%. I would venture to say if I went back and asked them to just recalculate based on where we would move some of those check marks, and I think I'm going to do that, we would see that there would be marked improvement. And if we look at the normal A, B, C, D range, I'd bet we're at least in B now for having ethical and transparent business practices that follow their guidelines.
My apologies. So we spent this last year with Jorge working on our equity in our group and really reflecting on our views and perceptions of it and how we wanted to take that forward. I was, you know, it was exciting. It was daring. It was, you know, very enlightening for all of us. And I think we have taken our equity training that and our reflections that we took from that training, and we've added it to some of our BHAGs, which we will be reflecting later on. And we've also worked it into kind of a statement that we want to put out there, hopefully for people to say, hey, that's the kind of team I want to work with. And so we took some of our BHAGs and we've listed them here, and we put this statement with every one of our EdJoin jobs, so that reflective of no matter what level in our departments they are, this is the kind of person we're looking for. We're looking for high quality, keen people that want to work with us and join this team. So, and I invite anybody in the district to join us with this group. Next slide. So when I was talking about working with the BHAGs and moving the equity, and we also added belonging to that. We felt it needed a little more emphasis than just the equity, and we used the belonging. So is this one mine? Not mine? Okay, I thought you were the next slide. Anyway, so I just wanted to do a quick thing that we really took our BHAGs and restructured them a little bit in the last month or two, and have put equity and belonging in there. And we felt so strongly after our training that we felt that this was the forefront and we needed to keep this in our goals and our BHAGs. So I'll let Robert finish up.
I hope through this you can see how well we get along as a team and work together. I just wanted to speak to this slide too, as well as Elizabeth, and she did a really good job of that. But this really, to me, encapsulates our work in the Business Services Department, the things that you've seen us present to you over the last, several years, really. And really, I just wanted to call out that it really encapsulates our approach to, or our beginning our journey around equity. We know that that's a journey and not a destination. We know that we're not there yet. We know that that's something that we need to be working on and making sure that we really focus intentionally on. And I think one of the first things we need to do with that is really make sure that our guiding documents in our conversations really reflect that. And so I think this is an indication that we're working on that and we'll continue to do so.
Okay, to somewhat wrap this up, moving forward with the work that we've learned through the equity training that we've been involved in, we created equity position statements as it was just explained in the EdJoin postings. Interview questions that focus on belief statements about equity and our BHAGs. We actually did that for our culinary manager position. That was one of the questions. We wanted to make sure that they had a clear understanding. July Business Services Leadership Retreat. We're going to go back. Equity is going to be part about that format because we really learned a lot. We really learned a lot as a team as well, but also it's part of that customer service with the equity training that we're learning. Student advisory to gain student voice. We always want to hear from our students at all times. October Professional Development Day for classified staff, which we're going to be doing a lot of, especially food and nutrition services, with chef trainings and trying to bring equity training forward more into the departments, into the staff who are dealing with the customer service of students. And then leadership development program for classified and certificated staff.
So one more example of something that we did, we spent the last 2 days interviewing architects. And one of the things that we asked them was, we want to better understand you and your company and your views and your perspective and your corporate belief around equity. What does it mean? What does it look like? How would we see it? And it was really evident with a lot of the architects and the teams that they sent. We could see what it means. And some of them had very intentional positions of what they do as organizations. We felt so strongly as a team with the work that we've done and the work that we want to do in all of the operations departments to ensure that even when we're working with architects, we want this to be a primary focus. And so our message to you tonight is that we're committed to this work. We've really taken a step forward. I couldn't be prouder of the excitement that the team behind me has around things like creating a student advisory and having representation from every single school site where they have an opportunity to interact with the leaders behind me and even more of the leaders in our department to say, we really like this, we don't like this, what about this? Because we don't do that in operations. We're committed to doing that. Likewise, that leadership development program, we're creating a leadership development program that will span the next school year where we will have leaders from around the district, whether they're leaders already or whether they want to be leaders, to be able to better understand our departments and understand the work that happens in business services. We're extremely proud of our accomplishments. By no means do we think that we're perfect. We are always open to feedback, but most of all, we are a really tight, committed team who truly care about each other. And we know that when we model that as leaders, we will bring that to our departments and it will really show and impact the students in our district. Thank you.
Great report.
Thank you so much. Any comments or questions?
Well, I appreciated the report and the review. You reminded me of things that I recognized while we were going through the process or hearing about it during the year. But if you had asked me to list it create a list, I would have forgotten many of them. I do have a question though for Ms. McClanahan. What is the Amazon rollout?
Amazon is rolling out in August, and the only reason we've delayed it then is that's when most of our schools and staffs will be returning. So we will be 100%. We did a pilot program this spring that was extremely successful. We learned a lot. We networked with other districts and learned from them, and now we are ready to roll out the Amazon.
So what will it be for purchases for?
It'll be for your general purchases.
Like just-in-time delivery sort of thing?
And yeah, and I will say in our test runs, it's pretty much like you get at home. We've been doing like 2-day turnarounds in our ordering. So some of those really hot items that you need right now, let's look at the Amazon option. Okay. Yeah, and some of those unique purchases, sometimes Amazon is the place to get it, and my other vendors aren't able to provide as quickly, as efficiently.
Do you think they'll deliver by drone? No.
Probably, well, at least not to me because I'm too close to the airport, but maybe, who knows?
Thank you.
You're welcome.
I just want to say thank you. It's really great to see the camaraderie and the positivity that you bring to your work and to your leadership, and to see the accomplishments all in a great summary like that. I'm especially excited about the student advisory and the leadership development program as things going forward. I think those are the kinds of things that keep people interested and excited about being a part of things. So thank you.
Thank you so much for the presentation as well. It was, sorry. It's fun to see people who are happy. And I really appreciate though the explicit expression of weaving equity and belonging into your work. And I think it gives a good example, as the example you gave Dr. Gonzalez, of the interviewing the architecture firms, of how we are slowly changing our culture in this district to just make it a regular part of our work, and then going that extra step to expect that the people we partner with make it a regular part of their work. So I really appreciate that. All right, go.
Thank you.
Sorry. Oh wait, you have to say, I think. Yeah. 12.5, review fiscal crisis and management assistance team, FICMAT, progress monitoring, maintenance and operation.
So we're not going to really go through this because I think we'd be here all night and you'd have to get a meeting extension. But what we wanted to do is we're committed to continue to bring back to you updates. There are some things where we can get some really good movements just because of the nature of what some of the recommendations were and the fact that we've got staff who's here and fully staffed and we're able to do some of those. And then we have some areas that you can see in yellow that say that there is a work in progress. So we are happy to answer any of the questions that you may have about this update.
Any questions?
The report shows that you've done a lot of hard work. And even though there are things that haven't been started yet, I know that they're on the radar. They're that item that you wake up at 2 o'clock in the morning to figure out how you're going to accomplish it. So thank you for preparing the report and keeping it updated. That's important.
It's just great to have the transparency of that and for everyone to be able to see where we are on these goals. So thank you.
And board, I just want to share that, you know, obviously as we look through the recommendations, there's some low hanging fruit that definitely, you know, the team has already started to address. But a lot of these things on here are deeper than that and are very structural. And so so I know sometimes the first response is, okay, let me get this done quick. Let me do this. That's the reaction. But I really appreciate the thoughtfulness and really trying to change the system that we operate in rather than just something surface level that really is going to be person dependent and not necessarily department dependent. So so anyway, however long we need to take on doing this the right way, we're full support of that. Yeah.
Then I think we can move on to 12.6, FICMAT update for, oh no, fiscal health risk analysis report, next steps in program.
So pretty much the same thing as the last presentation. Our commitment to you moving forward is that we're going to be bringing this to you at least quarterly to give you updates on every single one of these items. You can see that, again, as I mentioned in the business services report, there are certainly a lot of items here that have turned to green, and green is the color that we would like to see. And there are some areas that are still a work in progress because even after the 10, 11 months or so of trying to work on these, they do take a lot more time. So, you can see exactly where we started, and some of these they started in red and they've gone from red to yellow to blue and they're heading to green. And this is our commitment again to be transparent and to show you exactly what it is that we're doing. So happy to answer any questions that you might have.
Thank you. Are there any questions? I think we're good. Thank you very much. (13.1) board member reports, our last one of the school year. Yay. Would anyone like to volunteer to go first? And I suspect that they are pretty short, and I encourage that, but no. So then let us have Trustee Count go first.
Sorry, it's shorter than sometimes. Okay. Yeah, briefly. Attended a couple of great things. The March for Our Lives that our amazing Trustee McFerrin spoke at and represented us so well, speaking from her perspective as a teacher and as a board member, I think from our district. And it was just such an incredible event because it was, and Trustee Mayo was there as well. And it was, student led by Concord High students and including, speakers and music from all different perspectives. It was just wonderful. One concern that was brought up there that is something that we can consider here in our district is a concern about active shooter drills in schools and really what are the recommendations there. It appears that active shooter drills are not a recommended best practice. That actually they don't result in, I guess, their intended desires. So really, that would be something that I would love to see our board look into very carefully. I also attended a meeting with City of Concord Council Member Obringer and LGBTQ minus tobacco, really encouraging the City of Concord to restrict and regulate access that youth have to vape and tobacco products to prevent the predatory marketing that is happening here in the City of Concord. And there are models that are out there and support from the community as well as funding opportunities for that. So it's really great to see the city moving forward on to actually implement the regulations that are recommended, that our county has already implemented 2 years ago, and our board back then in January of 2020, was it, recommended that all cities implement. So it's good to see. I think the City of Concord is moving forward on that, and I hope to see it on their agenda very soon. I did have a conversation with junior student Hayden Yu, who is starting a tutoring program where high school students in the district who are bilingual will tutor students in elementary and middle school throughout the district. So stay tuned. She's building a website where people can sign up as a tutor or as a student. And she's coordinating with our incoming school board student member, Anahi Nava Flores, on outreach to Mount Diablo High. So that's an exciting development. And then this week, I've been an adult ally attendee of the Ed 100 Academy for Student Leadership. This is a free virtual online summer conference that you've heard me talk about. It's actually happening right now. So it happened Monday, Tuesday, and today. And students receive certificates for attending, and it counts towards their civic engagement. A couple exciting things there. The governor spoke on the first day. There's some big name. Sal Khan from Khan Academy was there. Dr. Shirley Weber, our Secretary of State, spoke with the students and talked about how students can work at our polls, at our election places on election day, and get paid for that. And that also counts towards civic engagement. And she also recommended that students volunteer for a local candidate. That was one of the ways that she originally got involved. There was a student-led group called Gender Cool that presented how they found that the data says that Generation Z, 21% of them identify as LGBT. And their question was, well, is the workplace ready for us? And so they decided to take action, and they are actually helping to train companies and workplaces on how to be an inclusive and welcoming place for LGBT workers. So I thought that was a great example of students thinking about not only how can they be a leader of something within their school or their school site or their school district, but really looking even beyond that to their future. So that was exciting to see. There is a Discord server that students who are attending this conference have joined, and that I believe continues year round. And I think that we have students from all 5 of our high schools who have been attending the conference. So one of the things that that Anahi and I were talking about is the idea of possibly starting a Discord channel just of the people from our district who attended, whether they were adults or students, to be able to keep in touch throughout the year. So if you're a student out there by chance watching this board meeting who wants to network with other student leaders, that's a really exciting possibility. And then lastly, another thing that came out of that conference is that Ed 100 is an excellent resource for parents also in both English and Spanish. And they have something coming up. I have a little flyer to share with you guys that I can post. It's called Ed 100 in 10 weeks. You can earn your certificate as an Ed 100 graduate in 10 weeks in an immersive group experience. So Ed 100 is a website where you can, for free, take little 5-minute lessons. So it's really something you could quickly do on your phone, right? when you get through all of them, then you get your certificate. But the types of things that you learn there are about how our education system works and how you can engage within that. You know, how does education funding work? How, you know, all of those types of things. So they're going to be spreading the word about this to PTAs. And one of the things that I'm thinking about is whether we can do kind of a group within our district that all does this together in English and Spanish. So lots of exciting things. And then lastly, the Clayton Pride Parade is coming up this Saturday, June 25th. And there's a group of our school board members from our district, but also from districts across the region that are all going to be in the parade walking together. And I know that a number of students will be there as well. So looking forward to that this Saturday. See you there if you'll be there. Thank you.
Thank you, Trustee Mayo.
Putting me on the spot. But,
I was going alphabetical.
right. Yes, I was there at the March for Our Lives, and it was a great event. It was very friendly, very warm, and individuals were very supportive of the goal for the rally. I did participate in the Budget Advisory Committee and the Measure J committee meetings. And then I just, many of you know that I'm involved in volunteer work with nonprofits that help support our schools. And I just want to give a shout out to those officers who are leaving office, and for those officers that are incoming officers. June 30th and July 1st are pretty scary dates for nonprofit organizations because you have to prepare your financial records for the end of year. There's audits to be done. There's 3 different tax reports to be filed. It's a lot of work for our nonprofits, and I just want to give a shout out to them because it's that work that keeps them legal and in operation and supporting our schools. And they don't get a shout out for it. So thank you.
Thank you, Trustee McFerrin.
All right. I was at some events that others have already mentioned. I appreciated the March for Our Lives on June 11th. I just want to kind of echo some of Trustee Cowan's comments about the speech given by a kindergarten teacher about active shooter drills. Just, you know, as a high school teacher, I've done them, and it doesn't, just kind of considering that perspective of working with such young kids and trying to train them, just was a perspective I hadn't heard explained so clearly before. So I'm also very curious about what our policies and procedures are around these kinds of drills. And I hope that we can hear more in a future meeting. I also was at a couple of meetings with city leaders in Concord, Mayor Dominic Aliano and Councilmember Obringer about tobacco ordinances, and was there to kind of provide my perspective also as a classroom teacher and how these issues surrounding tobacco use, especially flavored tobacco and vaping, impact our students. I was also able to attend the most recent ABAR meeting on Monday night. Appreciated going to those meetings, and especially appreciated the presentation and the recommendations this evening. That's all I have to share.
And I just want to take my time to recognize that for Dr. Clark, Trustee Mayo, and Trustee Khan, you have made it 2 full years of the pandemic, 2 full school years with the close of this meeting. And for Trustee McFerrin and I, a school year and a half, and that we've done it. We remain sitting here, and we will be back in August. And I just wish you all a great, you know, July of again, it's what I wish for everyone is to restore ourselves and come back really strong and inspired and excited in the new school year at our next meeting in August. And I will see some of you on Saturday at the Clayton Pride Parade. Waving.
The Queen's Wave.
Right. So with that, we can move on to the superintendent's report 14.1.
Thank you. Again, I will try to try to be brief this evening. You'll be happy to know I don't have a PowerPoint. So I just want to, kind of in line with what Trustee Nzewi said, is that, here we are, this is our last meeting of the academic year, and there's been a great deal accomplished this year. For the last few days, I've had the opportunity to sit in on equity sort of feedback meetings with many of our principals. We've actually had some high schools, some alternative schools, middle schools, and yesterday we touched on a few elementary schools. And I just have to say is that we have been headed down this road of really focusing on instruction within our classrooms and supporting teachers with the direction, not starting something for a little while and then going into the next best thing, but really sticking with that focus on ELA and math and tying equity to that. You can't talk about equity in a school district without talking about instruction, discipline, grading, all those things. And so it has just been very reaffirming for the last couple of days to hear the principals share what's been taking place at their school sites, looking at their data. Dr. Genoway put together a data sheet, a data frame that all the schools are loading their individual data into, and to hear how schools are responding to their data was very enlightening and very reaffirming of the work that we've been doing. One of our topics that we talked about were discipline and suspensions. And at the last meeting, I did share data on our suspensions. What I brought tonight, just to give any of you an example, there are a number of critical reports done by different organizations, mainly UCLA. We also have the Civil Rights Project, where they're talking about the long-term effects of suspending students and removing students from school. So there are some situations when students need to be removed from school, but we really have to focus on those systems, practices, and relationships that not only prevent suspensions, but then also work on the healing once the student returns. And how are you going to not stigmatize that student or have that suspension be that lasting effect on how students view themselves within the educational system. So just lots of good things are coming up as we go into next year. We are going to be full steam ahead in staying on the same path in terms of instruction and assessment and interventions. Just as I'm writing down a few notes here, we're going to continue our focus on safety, students' physical safety, right? Making sure, I know the buzz now is the school shootings that took place, but we think about that all the time, every day. That's part of our mind. So yes, we're going to continue to look at how we do our drills, looking at those access points of our school sites, looking at those physical aspects of safety. But then there's also the whole mental aspect, social emotional learning amongst our students, safety for our students of color who are experiencing trauma and things of that nature. Safety for our staff, making sure that staff feels safe on our campuses. Really shifting our organization from an organization that focuses on the needs of adults to really putting all of our focus on what are the needs of our students, and then backwards planning from that. And also, again, we can't talk about work that's being done without talking about high quality instruction. That really is the foundation of all we do. And then how can we support that instruction? So how do we support it with support staff, with materials, with resources? And with that, we're really excited about moving into next year, but also, have to acknowledge the work that really took place this year. And again, just, recognizing the work of the board, but also some of our key partnerships. Our partnership with CCEE has really been fruitful in keeping us focused on this work. I mean, every 2 weeks, we're having meetings with them. We're sending them our data sets. They're coming to our district, walking with us, doing walkthroughs with TNTP, which is a direct result from our work with CCEE. So just lots of things taking place. As we go into next year, we're looking at more support systems for our students. So already we're contracting with more social workers. Some of the positions that you approved tonight is our direct result of the needs and the data that our students are hurting and need that support. Our staff needs the support. They need those extra bodies on campus that can do many different things, right? And be there to lead on a campus, but also support the efforts that are taking place on those campuses. So we're excited to be moving forward. I know that the board will be excited to take a few weeks, 5 or 6 weeks off, and you all need to recharge as well. This hasn't been an easy year on anybody, but I can promise you that as you all are recharging, many of us are still going to be here planning, assessing, and really getting the district prepared to welcome those students and staff members back when we come back in August. So again, very excited. I will continue to keep you updated throughout the summer on progress, and I am canceling all of our meetings. But then if any of you would like to meet, of course, just email and we can carry on those meetings. So with that concludes my report, and just excited about closing out this year, and super excited to bring in 22, 23? Yeah. So thank you.
Thank you so much. So now we move on to the consent agenda. Items, let's see. Okay. Would anyone like to remove anything from the consent agenda? All right.
I already did.
Oh, right. Right. We did that. We put them under after the curriculum.
Madam Vice President, I move to approve the consent agenda.
Second.
All right, that passes 4-0. Then that was a long consent.
64.
Yeah. All right. So we move on to item 18.1, a public hearing for Senate Bill 858, excess of minimum reserve requirements. As I've seen President Mason do, I open up a hearing with a gavel. So we open up the hearing. I don't have any public comment cards or anything. So I will close the hearing. Really? Okay. Do we have a presentation of any sort, or is that?
Give me 1 second.
Approve it, no problem. It's fine. It's just action, yeah.
Yeah.
You want a motion?
There is not a presentation. of
Right,
this.
so I'll entertain a motion, which is to approve the public hearing.
I move to approve the public hearing for Senate Bill SB 858, Chapter 23, 2014, and designate the balances in excess of minimum reserve requirements.
Second.
All right, that passes 4-0. 18.2, review and approval of the 22-23 local accountability plan, which was presented at our last meeting.
Yes, our local control accountability plan was up to collect feedback and input from the community. I really want to thank those folks that did provide input and feedback. And if you take a look at the document itself, the edits are underlined and in bold.
I'll entertain a motion.
Madam President, I move to approve the Mount Diablo Unified 2022-23 Local Control Accountability Plan.
Second.
Thank you for listening to the feedback.
That passes 4-0. 18.3, review and potential approval of the LCAP federal addendum.
So the federal addendum is actually a companion document to the local control accountability plan. The federal government does appreciate the state's attempt to include everything in their plan, but they have identified some bits and pieces that do need to be addressed separately. And so this is just one of those plans that we need to have submitted once a year. And so that is what you have before you today.
I'll entertain a motion.
Madam President, I'll move that the board approve the Mount Diablo Unified School District 2022 Local Control Accountability Plan Federal Addendum.
Second.
That passes 4-0. So we move on to 18.4, review and potential adoption of the 22-23 MDUSD budget.
Yep, and we have Dr. Gonzalez and Ms. Arbobai to do a presentation. There is a presentation attached here.
Yeah, there's a presentation attached. It's an abbreviated version of the presentation that we did 2 weeks ago. There are no changes because we received no additional feedback or input on the budget. So it is up to the board if you want us to walk through the slides or if you would just like to move forward with the agenda item.
I think something that's important that you could share very, very briefly about is the status of the state budget, because it's a mess.
So the way that the state budget works is that, you know, the governor has his May revisions, which happened in the middle of May. And then the legislature, the Senate and the Assembly get together, and actually this year got together and they came up with their own proposal. So I think one of the things that we can probably share with the community, I don't think we're doing a Friday update, but we can definitely put it on the business services page, that there is a chart right now that shows what the legislator is suggesting and what the governor is suggesting. We are hearing rumors that maybe the end of this week or at some point next week, we will find out what that final budget looks like. The governor has until the end of this month to go ahead and take what the legislature has proposed, and he's got the magic red pen that can go in and he can strike anything that he wants or change anything. So we're waiting to see what happens. There are some areas where they're very close together. There are some areas where they're not. The discretionary block grant is one of those examples. Home to school transportation, additional funding for transitional kindergarten, all of those components. So at this point, we are waiting to see. The devil is in the details, if you will, because there's always trailer bill language on almost every single component of that budget that gives you an idea as to what you can and can't do, what your timelines are, what your reporting is. And so right now we wait for a lot of that, which is why most of the districts in the state are going to be doing a 45-day revised budget. The 45 days starts as soon as the state budget is approved and adopted. So right now we're at a wait and see.
I do have a question. There are a couple of items later on the agenda that have the potential to affect the budget, in particular the signing bonuses. Will those be incorporated into the 45-day budget, or will they be incorporated into the first interim?
They will be incorporated into the 45-day budget because we have an opportunity to update that. There was no time to revise the current budget that you have in front of you tonight, but definitely for the 45-day.
Okay, thank you.
Any other questions? I'll entertain a motion.
With that explanation, I move to approve adoption of the 22-23 Mount Diablo Unified School District budget.
Second.
Thank you. That passes 4-0, and we move on to 18.5. The review and potential approval of the annual report and literacy review and literacy action plan for Bel Air Elementary School Early Literacy Support Block Grant.
Good evening, members of the board, Dr. Clark. It's an honor to be here to present this information. So tonight we're presenting what I was doing. There's a couple links, and if he's not logged into my drive, you can't see him, but I think he's going to be able to get it working.
I just want to say first, before Mr. Humphrey gets started, I know, who was that? That was you and I went to go visit Bel Air earlier in the year, and Mr. Humphrey was giving us a tour of the school, was very excited about progress that they were making, very excited about the direction his school was taking, and there was just this true camaraderie of the staff out there, focusing on kids and focusing on on some of these new initiatives that they've been implementing. So I'm not trying to put any pressure on you.
None at all, sir. No, sir, none at all. Can we go to the very first slide? Oh, I got to do it.
But we are. I know you're not going to go through all those slides, are you? No,
I'm going to read every word on every slide. This is about literacy, right? We should be reading, comprehension. I want to make sure we're doing all of that.
And you know that we know how to read.
Yes. And if you haven't had a Robert Humphrey presentation, you're in for a surprise tonight. I do want to start.
So again, Robert, I really just want to recognize your work.
Thank you, sir.
And your leadership out of Bel Air.
Thank you.
And I know I haven't looked at it. I wanted to wait for this moment, but I know, I mean, you look like a proud papa right there.
Yes, sir.
So like, I'm excited to hear this. All right.
Yes, thank you very much. I do want to mention that I do have with me this evening, Joni Cuneo, who's a TOSA, Jen Dye, who's one of our intervention specialists, and of course, support from Margie and Jen as well. So the short version of this is, well, of course, I learned from the best, right? We have our LCAP goals here, and I have it on a different one. I didn't get goal 4 on this one, but I know it's there, and so we're aware of that as well. These are the Bel Air goals. I know you all have a copy of this, so I will go through this rather quickly. Of course, they all align directly to the district goals as well. We have a 4th goal, which most schools don't have, and that goal is specifically aimed at this grant. Everything in there is Robert and CDE language. So it is definitely approved by the CDE as well. This is our vision statement that we worked on this year as well, guiding our work. We had great conversations about this, and we were able to put this together as well. Here are our demographics, about 400 kids. You see the difference in terms of percentages for our different ethnicities, 95.8% free reduced lunch. And of course, we're 100% amazing, and that's the very important stat right there. One of the things to look at in looking at this grant is also to reflect back and remember that Bel Air was a CSI school, and then we weren't after one cycle. So we were able to move ourselves. So Bel Air has been moving in the right direction for some years now, and we're just going to continue on that same path. So the short version, kind of what happened. So Margie came to my office, and this is during distance learning. So she's like, Robert, I have this grant I want you to apply for. I was like, is this like a garden grant or something? Like, I can't even keep like silk plants alive. Like, there's whatever. She's like, no, I want you to hear me out. Bel Air was identified. There's this grant. I'm like, okay. She's like, it's focused on literacy. I was like, that's good. You know, I was like, what? It's like $5,000-$10,000. Like, what's that really gonna do? She's like, and the total grant award it's like $968,000. And I was like, I have a pen I can sign right now. Like, are we doing this right now? So thanks to Jen and Margie and Stephanie Roberts, they were able to go through the identification process. And in January of 21, we were awarded the grant. After that, there was a lot of meetings that happened. Yes, that was great news, right? So this is our team. So this is not a Robert production. I'm the first to admit that if you're going to ask me deep questions on the science of reading, that's why they're here, right? And I would say any good manager, superintendent, principal, you put the right people in the right places to make your school successful. And I believe that's what I've done, and that's what we've done as a team at Bel Air. So a wide variety of folks are on there: intervention specialists, ed services, representatives from each grade level. And remember, this grant is a TK3 grant, so it does not apply to 4th and 5th, but we kind of like weave some 4th and 5th stuff in there as well. Okay, so it started off back in that January, a lot of pre-meetings, like this is what the grant is, this is what you have to do. I put together a team right away. These are the different organizations that are working on it. It's SCOE, Pivot Learning, Core Education, and of course CCEE and the CDE are involved this as well. Presentations happened right away to staff. I do want to say this about the Bel Air staff. They're amazing. We already know what kind of assessments we have at all of our schools. You're going to see that we added more assessments. Not once did any staff member ever say to me, not happening, Robert, I'm not doing it. The only thing they said to me was, show me how to do it. Everyone jumped on board right away. I cannot say enough how proud I am of the folks that are working at Bel Air and their hard work and their dedication to this. It's amazing. I'm very proud of them. So we move on, and we wrote what are called SMARTY goals. So it's SMART goals, but you have the E tagged on, which is the equity piece of it. Is it possible to click on that link? I don't know if I can do that. So these are the, and I might need you to scroll for me. So these are the SMARTY goals. So what we did was we wrote 3 goals. The first goal that we have, there we go. The first goal that we have is strictly based on data collection. So one of the things we said is we can't move anywhere with this if we don't have a common, accurate, reliable assessment tool. And so what we were looking at is we were doing a bunch of different things, right? We're doing ESGI, and then we have iReady, and then we have the IABs. They're close, but they're not directly aligned. So what we have done is we've gone with DIBELS, and DIBELS is out of the University of Oregon, and we'll get deeper into what that assessment is. But our first goal, this is what we primarily focused on this year, is we have to find a way school-wide, TK3, to make sure that we have a very reliable assessment method, because otherwise we can't plan for anything else, right? If we don't have that data. If you could pull out of this screen and go back to the other one, please. Thank you. So then from there, these are the other 2 goals that are on there. The second goal we've dipped into as well this year. It's about capacity building. We looked into the plan, do, study, act cycle and the cycle of inquiry. I know that Dr. Clark and Jen have mentioned this many times before in terms of staff getting training on that. Bel Air is a little bit ahead of the game. So we're already getting into these cycles and really looking at how we can best serve our students. And then the very last piece, you'll see this, and actually some of the items in the consent agenda that we'll talk about in a moment. We are looking into purchasing supplemental programs to support our students as well. The literacy action plan, there's 3 pieces of this. The first piece of it is all focused on these 3 areas. So what we did with our plans, we started with stakeholder engagement. So we talked to everyone. And remember, this is during distance learning. So we had staff meetings, we had community meetings, any voices we could get. What are your concerns about Bel Air? What are you seeing academically, right? The root cause analysis that we did pointed out to us, and our focal point was, and this is not verbatim, but along the lines of, by the end of third grade, our students are not reading at grade level, right? So let's go back to TK, right? What are we doing? How do we get them there? Because we always talk about that third grade marker, right? We talk about the pipeline to prison, right? So we said, okay, by end of third grade, they're not reading. So what do we need to do? So we went back and did what's called a needs assessment, really dug deep into the programs that we're using, the assessments that we're using, and then put all of those into place to come up with our action plan. If I'm going too fast, just let me know. The action plan has the third section of it talks about all those things mentioned up on there. The highlights of the plan, obviously, we're looking at literacy, and this is great timing because of the presentation that Dr. Stuckey Smith did earlier today. The literacy pieces that we're using and the leveled readers through Lee and Low that we're looking at and the foundations program we're looking at are all very culturally relevant. We wanted to make sure that the materials that we're using are written by, illustrated by, and about individuals that resemble our students. And so we did a lot of work on that, and I'm really proud of the companies that we're going with and the literature that we're bringing to Bel Air, because it's very culturally diverse, which is something we need. And of course, AVID is always kind of like moving through there, right? There's tons of AVID strategies that apply directly to literacy, and we're infusing those as well. Some of the things we've done this year, as I've said, we talked about our assessments. We've really looked at small group instruction because our end game is that last question down there. We're not going to have this money forever. And a bigger piece of this is Bel Air wants to be able to be I don't know the right word, like the pilot school, if you will. What we're doing at Bel Air, we want to expand to the other 29 elementary schools. Well, they don't have $1 million, right? So they can't have access to the same thing. So what do we do in-house with what we have that we can replicate at other sites, right? So looking at that, we are putting a lot of front loading, if you will. You'll see that with the position control, with the materials that we're buying, but the end game is always in mind. Like, what do we do after year 3 when that money is gone, okay? We've really looked at our small group instruction at open house. Jen and Joni were amazing. We had books everywhere, all over campus. And as parents left, they were leaving with Safeway bags full of books, right? We're like, take them home, read them. We don't want them back. Like, just read. That's all we want you to do. And then the 4th and 5th grade students also worked with our TK and K kids. iReady. I'm really, really proud of this. This is on or above grade level. I have more data than you could ever want to see in your life. But I know that this is not the time or place to present that. If you want more data, I have no problem sharing it with you. This is just on or above grade level. And this is comparing from fall to spring. This is school-wide, kindergarten through 3rd grade. So that's all of our kids. So I'm gonna break it down just by the domains in all of our grade levels. I'm not gonna read all of this to you. Like I said, you have this report, but look at those gains, right? 36%. So 67% of our kindergartners are on or above grade level in phonological awareness, right? And that's the basis, right? Same with phonics. We're hitting the comprehension piece as well, all of those. Double-digit gains in every area, in every domain. And this is based on the DIBELS assessments. That's what those 6 categories are. Then we go into 1st grade, we're seeing the same grain. iReady, sorry. Thank you, that's why they're here. 1st grade, same growth. 2nd grade, making the same growth, right? 20s in every category. And then 3rd grade, they're already at 100% where they should be with phonological awareness. And then we're seeing the same growth for them as well. Overall, this is the DIBELS piece, and Jen and Joni jump in whenever you feel necessary. We're seeing a decrease in the number of students that need that pull-out instruction, but the need is still there. So thus the need, as you'll see on our reports for the intervention specialists for next year. We're making growth and we're getting to where we need to be, but we still need, as it says right there, another little piece, which is why we're looking at foundations. And I know you're gonna have some questions on that. And I know Jen and Joni have answers. For this past school year, we added an intervention specialist. We had Joni with us. We did a lot of professional development on iReady and DIBELS, and we purchased tons of materials, a lot of hands-on stuff, right? A lot of those magnet boards with all the letters, the kids love them, right? They love that hands-on piece. Tonight, what we're looking at is this is the annual review, and this is just your acceptance of the report. This is not saying that you approve or disapprove of any of the spending. The annual review is very flexible. The soft deadline is June 30th, so I'm going to send that to the CDE. If they have any concerns, they send it back to me. I'll review it with my team. We'll have it done by July 30th. If anything major happens in terms of their response, I will make sure that I bring that back to the board in August so that you're fully aware of that. We've made a lot of adjustments to our budget, position control, and we're looking at purchasing different materials. Foundations right now for K3, just words is the later part of that, and then leveled readers in K3 through Lee and Low, and then 4th and 5th grade for next year. Next year, what we're doing is we're adding a second intervention specialist. With this, it is a matter of getting foundations implemented with fidelity. And if we have that extra support of an extra person, and let's be honest, we have the money for it, right? The grant is a very large grant and we have the ability to do that. We want to build a very strong foundation. As you know, 2-3 years down the line, I'm not going to need 2 intervention specialists. I might only need a half-time one, right? If we implement this with fidelity, TK, K, and 1, and we have that foundation in place, we're where we need to be, right? So that's why we have those extra people there. And then adding a part-time program specialist as well to help oversee the program. Professional development, implementing new materials, things of that nature. And that's all I got. I know you have questions, and Jenny and Joni, you're gonna come on up here. We did receive one question via email, and I know that we pulled foundation, well, from the consent agenda.
Oh,
1519, I believe, is Lee and Low, the level readers.
I just wanted to have the approval of the materials after we adopt your plan.
Wonderful.
In sequence, and also to give you an opportunity to talk about them.
Okay.
So they weren't specific
Okay,
questions
okay.
that I was of concern.
Comments or questions?
Okay, so yeah, I'm not going to spend all night on this. I want to come out and hang out with you guys and learn more about it and see this in action. Because, you know, Bel Air and reading are both deep in my heart from years ago when I used to volunteer with the reading program out there. And, you know, from my own kids, like reading is so fundamental, and a love of reading is so fundamental. So I'm really excited about this project. And really excited about the results that you're seeing. That is something to celebrate, absolutely. And from what I can see, as far as the professional development, it looks to me like it's aligning with, so my overall question that you're ready to answer, I think, is around how this aligns with what we now know, you know, around the science of reading and what research is telling us really works to teach reading. So I'll leave that to you to be able to answer.
And it is very aligned. If you looked at the Reading Coalition front of their page, they say if we align reading instruction with research and brain science, we can reach all of our kiddos. And then when we look at the IDA, the International Dyslexia Association, we also know that a structured literacy approach helps those students also. So if we look at Nancy Young's The Ladder of Reading, it calls out that about 40% of kids can just kind of, with some help, learn how to read. The rest of them need a structured literacy, explicit phonics, and phonemic awareness approach. And so our teachers, 5 of them, Jen, you were one of them, went through the Core Reading Academy. They support the science of reading, support dyslexic students. And next year we will have 4 more staff members also go through that program. So with that, and with knowing from the International Reading Association panel, with what works and all of the other research behind the brain and what we know with research, Scarborough's rope and the simple view of reading, we've put those practices into place. We've put practices with an explicit phonics and phonemic awareness lesson from Core. and saw some really nice growth. You saw it up there. We saw it in our dibbles. And dibbles goes deeper, doesn't it, Jen? And so that deeper assessment, and we did extra, was done to inform instruction. So then we could be reactive as teams, and the teams met together. The literacy interventionists worked with them, and they looked at their data and they changed their instruction and focus. And there was a real focus that we need to teach that sound pattern. Then we need to explicitly teach it systematically. And then we need to practice it in decodables. We need our kids reading. We need them interacting, and we need a multi-sensory approach. An Art Orton Gillingham approach helps our dyslexic students. And I know the state of California is very concerned about that also, right? Helping all of our students. So Foundations has all of those pieces in it. It has the Orton Gillingham approach. So that's one reason when we were looking and we were researching. And I know that one of your other questions was about the materials with Wonders adaptation projects from Achieve the Core. They actually also had another report come out last year. And some of what they were making those recommendations, we added those to that core phonics. And we're still working on that as we work on the knowledge piece of the road. So we're taking all of those things, but we want our kiddos to break the code. But we also want to increase the knowledge and the vocabulary piece to create that whole picture of a reader. And I'm going to go as far as being literate. So a writer, a speaker, right? So we want to also bring joy. So some of the reason why we did reading buddies, we had 4th and 5th graders coming down. Some of them said the 4th and 5th graders, one of the reasons they came to school was to read and to bring that joy and to bring different books to Bel Air that represent the students. And Wonders does have that, but let's have more of those. Let's have those opportunities. Let's have decodable readers. Let's have that they can read after they have been explicitly taught, and the more the better. And actually the vocabulary is quite in the geodes, which supports the Foundations program. So you can't just have the Foundations program without the geodes, and that's part of what we are putting forth.
This is very exciting. Thank you so much for explaining that. And then the leveled readers, are those connected with Foundations, or where? How do those?
Lee and Low are.
How do those two interplay?
The Lee and Low are really a thematic. So we're really looking at students looking at themes. And within those themes, there are different levels so that students can grasp them wherever they are. But they are just adding and building a broader spectrum of books, classroom libraries that look like the students. Geodes, which is part of our Foundations, and I don't remember which number that is, 18 point something. We need to have decodables. Those are essential for our readers, for the science of reading, right? Yes. So if they're explicitly taught those sound patterns, they need to practice those in a book. And the geodes are those books. And the geodes are amazing too. And very culturally rich topics, artistic, they're beautiful.
Fantastic. I've heard really good things about Foundations, especially. Yeah. So when you say leveled readers, is that like, what's the leveling measurement? You know how there's different, some are like ABC, some are like,
We looked at those more and they called them leveled readers in Lee and Low. So maybe that's not the best representation. They are at different levels. So if we're going to use a Fontes and Pinnell, or if we're going to use our DRA or a guided level, right? We actually have a correlation chart as part of our district.
Like which one are you using?
So there's a lot of those, right? But basically what we did was we did thematic packs, but had different levels. So it could be of a lower level, a middle, higher, but so that it's attracting students.
They can all enjoy the theme.
Okay. So you're not so much trying to measure like those books and where limit students to like a certain level.
No,
you're just
never.
trying to have a range. Okay.
Exactly.
I get it. Okay.
Yes. And they call them, they do it by themes, but they do call it that.
Yeah.
But we didn't want, you are not a level 3. You
Yeah.
are not an E.
Okay.
You are a reader.
Thank
we
you.
want it to be joyful. We want them to be excited. And that's our goal.
Fantastic. That is all my questions. And thank you so much for explaining that. And I really think this could be a model, like you said, moving forward for the district as a whole. So
It
exciting
has
news.
been, and Robert has been amazing and his team, and they have all worked really hard. They're actually even thinking about meeting this summer. So, I mean, they are dedicated staff that really want to do what's best for Bel Air students and community.
So how many total teachers do you have and how many of them have now been trained on this?
5 and 9. 5
been trained.
and 4 more.
Okay.
Yeah, so the grant covers any teachers TK through 3, and then we're looking at other funding sources to be able to provide this to 4th and 5th as well. So last year, 5 teachers were trained. This year, once we get those other 4 trained, we should have K for all trained. So all of our primary teachers will be trained.
Fantastic. Thank you.
I have a question, if you guys don't have any more.
Go right ahead, Dr. Clark.
You, tell me your name?
Jennifer Dye.
Jennifer Dye. Can you tell me about the atmosphere on campus? I mean, can you just tell me about like the students, staff, parents?
Certainly. Well,
I'll step out of the way.
Okay, thank you. Yeah, no, I'm just, yeah.
Well, I do reading intervention, so I
Yeah.
work with a broad range of students. And I have to say, every time I walk around campus, kids are, can I come? When do I get to go? Why don't I get to go? And they all want to come and read, and they all are so excited. And I hand out books constantly. Joni and I did it at open house, but kids are knocking at my door. Can I get a book? It's recess. And I just hand out books. I get donations constantly, and the kids just want to read, and we want to encourage them to be able to become stronger readers. And so I actually just today got approved a donors choose for more books, because everyone comes on, knocks on my door. Can I have Dog Man? I was out of Dog Man, so I just got $1,000 of Dog Man books because the kids want them, and they're theirs. I put it in as keep them, take them home, because our students need books in their houses too. The kids are excited. Parents, when we did the book giveaway, parents were so happy. This is the best, and they were just excited.
Great. Thank you for sharing.
Yeah.
Thank you.
There's nothing like the feel of a real book.
Right.
All right.
So we just as an action item, we just need like
Well,
approval to accept it.
they're gonna debate it. I
Yes,
don't
I'm
know.
just
I
saying.
mean.
I see it.
Thank you all.
Thank you all. So I entertain a motion to accept this, to approve this. Annual report.
All right. I would like to enthusiastically move to approve the annual report and literacy action plan for Bel Air Elementary School Early Literacy Support Block Grant.
Second.
Oh, now the system goes out. No, I'm joking.
Oh, they're just switching screens.
And, oh, no, sorry.
Do I have to vote? Usually I'm first.
All
All right,
Wow.
4-0. And now we can move on to the new 18.6 and review and potential approval of their Bel Air Elementary School order with Lee and Low books, which we just heard about for level readers.
Madam President, I move to approve Bel Air Elementary School order with Lee and Low for leveled readers that are
Second.
actually thematic.
Second.
And that passes 4-0. And we go to 18.7, which is review and potential approval of Bel Air school order with the Wilson Language Training Foundation.
It's foundations, right? Okay, there's a typo
Yeah,
there. Okay.
foundation.
All right. Lastly, Madam President, I move to approve Bel Air school order with Wilson Language Training Foundations.
Second. And I appreciate your indulgence. You need. to
That
ask.
passes 4-0. Go
Right.
ahead. Trustee
And grouping these together, whenever anybody is looking for the program, they'll be able to find the adoption of the materials right there instead of hunting for it elsewhere on the agenda. That seems like a little thing, but for some folks, it's important.
Thank you,
Totally
Trustee
makes
Mayo.
sense.
And it makes it easy to brag.
For sure. We move on to 18.8, review and potential approval to maintain the increased substitute teacher daily rate of pay.
We have Mr. Sheehy is going to present this item.
Yeah, so what we have in front of you tonight is a proposal to extend the current substitute teacher rate to December 31st, 2022, pending any future board decision. We did see an increase of filled positions when we did put this into place. We averaged about a fill rate of 70% prior to the increased rate, and we're now about 85-ish% of fill rate. And so we definitely have seen an increase of subs enter our district and an increase of subs picking up the district. In analyzing, looking around at surrounding districts, when I pulled the data, you know, districts haven't chosen to decrease rates. They have chosen to maintain the rates, if not increase them. And so at this point in time, it is our recommendation to maintain the rate through December and then revisit it then.
I'll entertain a motion.
Madam President, I'll move to approve the increase of substitute teacher daily rate of pay until December 31st, 2022.
Second.
Passes 4-0. 18.9. Or was that? Yeah. Review the new job descriptions for student services, student enrollment coordinator, and student enrollment specialist.
Yes, and we have Dr. Aguirre to present this item.
Thank you. We're asking to create these job descriptions so that we can move forward with a district-wide centralized enrollment process. We think it will make more accurate for projections and staffing, fewer movements between schools for students, and a more streamlined enrollment process.
Thank you. Are there any questions or comments? Hearing none, I entertain a motion.
Madam President, I move the board approve the student enrollment coordinator job description and the student enrollment specialist job description as presented.
Second.
That passes 4-0. 18.10, review and potential approval of the updated CERT AAC augmentative alternative communication coach job description. I hope they never have to say that out loud.
Well, that's sort of a ironic title for the actual position, right? But this is a really important role within our district. We have many students accessing AAC services and devices. There is, our current job description requires a prerequisite of being a speech language pathologist, and we know there are significant shortages in that. But RESNA is the assistive technology organization that oversees this, and this aligns with the RESNA certification for the position and meets all of the state guidelines for it also. So it'll enable us to have a far broader pool to serve our kids.
Any questions or comments? Hearing none, I'll entertain a motion.
Madam President, I move to approve the updated CERT AAC augmentative alternative communication coach job description.
Second.
Aaron.
McFerrin.
Ms. McFerrin.
And that passes 4-0. 18.12, review and potential. Oh, shoot, sorry. Review and potential approval of revised job description for social work specialist.
And this is my last one. And so this aligns the job duties with the current work, and the current job description has the person, the social work specialist, reporting to the equity department. In actual practicality, they have worked with our school support services under our student services department, serving our foster homeless youth, running our wellness centers, et cetera. So this corrects that to align with their duties.
Madam President, I move to approve the revised job description for social work specialist.
Second.
That passes 4-0.
Thank
And now
you
we
very
really
much.
go to 18.12. Review and potential approval of the recommendation for hiring bonus for specific Medea position.
And we have Dr. Rubio is going to present this item.
Good evening again, board members. We have before you a recommendation for a hiring bonus. As you know, we are moving and responding quickly to hiring situations. This can be a very hard issue for bargaining units, and I'm happy that through a lot of work and good relationships that I appreciate that Medea and the district were able to work collaboratively on this. And thank you to Anita Johnson and Dan Reynolds for helping work so vigorously on this, and it's for your review and approval.
Any questions or comments?
Did we have some corrections to this?
I'm aware of a typo that we're going to correct in 2.21 as March 1st. And then there are some small edits that Medea and the district are still working on, not in terms of corrections, but just as we're finalizing, we're in the final moments of that. So we are asking for your approval of this, as we are also making some tiny minor edits with Medea as well. So, but we will fix that March 1st date.
So there won't be substantive changes.
No.
And we're looking for a motion to approve the hiring bonus.
Yes, thank
Right.
you. We are asking for your review and
Honestly,
approval for the hiring bonus approval.
Madam President, I move to approve the recommendation for hiring bonus for specific Medea positions.
Second.
And I'd also like to point out that there's also a change in the salary schedule placement. The docket in our motion mentions hiring and retention bonus, but and I recognize the salary schedule placement goes with it, but it's not discussed. So I think it's an important piece.
Absolutely. And it is based upon years of experience. As we're trying to recruit, I appreciate you saying that, as we're trying to recruit experienced teachers, they may come with 5 years experience, 10 years experience, and we sometimes lose candidates with great numbers of years of experience because they may come in with 20 years and say, you can only take 11. And so that is, I apologize, yes, that is part of the MOU as well.
Trustee Mayo, should we amend the motion?
It's in the item. It's just I wanted to call it out for the
Absolutely.
record.
Thank you.
I think we have a motion and a second. That passes 4-0. So we move to 18 points.
I just want to say thank you to everyone who worked so hard on that. I know we have some really crucial positions to fill, so spread the word about the benefits of joining Team MDUSD as a math, science, or special ed teacher.
Absolutely. And we appreciate your support. We just to try to get applications we posted on social media. We will now take off depending board approval, and we appreciate that. Thank you.
Thank
You have one more of the same that you'll have to do as well. So review and potential approval of the recommendation for hiring bonus for specific med spa position.
Yes, similar in spirit for sure. We're very happy, as is the unit, to have this. They told us this is something they've been working on and wanting for years. And so we did clarify with them this evening during the board meeting. This is intended to be a 2-year agreement. So there's one section that says 2022, 2023, but then there's the language that goes until 2024, and they have communicated in writing that they intend and would like this, and we agree that this is a 2-year agreement for MUDSPA hiring about a MUDSPA hiring bonus.
So you're saying that in the bullet area where it says for 2022 to 2023, that will be 2024?
Yes, apologize for that. Yes.
Okay.
In line with the final date of the expiration.
So the final date is correct?
Yes.
Okay.
There are no other questions or comments? Entertain a motion.
Madam President, I move to approve the recommended hiring bonus for specific MDSPA positions, including the correction that it is a 2-year plan from
Yes, 2 years.
2022 to 2024.
Correct.
Second?
Thank you.
Thank you.
That
Thank you.
passes 4-0.
And thank you, MUDSPA.
18 points. I can't read my, okay, I'm just doing the math now. I can't read my writing. 14. Review and potential approval of proposed course of study for 6th grade accelerated Spanish.
Yes, and I'm just here at the mic to say that there needs to be a correction to this item, and I do apologize. This actually came for information at our last meeting. So unfortunately, this should have been for action and not for information at this meeting.
Does that mean we can't take action?
That's why I wanted to come up and ask the question.
So, Mr. Alba?
We can bring it back. We can propose a draft that the teachers review and look at, and we can bring it back to the August 17th meeting if necessary, if we are not able to make that change right now. Is it okay if he happens to read?
He can take more than a moment.
Recommendation line does say move to approve. It just doesn't say info.
doesn't
It
say
says
action at the
info at the
top.
top.
That's why there is actually a recommendation for motion to approve. So I think that constitutes enough notice.
Okay, thank you.
Are there any questions about this item? Discussing, yeah, just she's talking about if she needs to hit. All right, I can entertain a motion.
Madam President, I move that the board approve the updated 6th grade accelerated Spanish COS as presented.
Second?
That passes 4-0. Moving on to 18.15, review and potential approval for the authorization of the superintendent to make interim appointments and board authorizations in advance of the board meeting, August 17th.
Yeah, Vice President Zawi, we are asking for this authorization. So over the summer, as we're hiring and making sure that projects stay on time, that I can act on behalf of the board and enter into those agreements. However, everything that I do will be brought back to the board on August 17th when we reconvene. So we're asking for approval of this.
I'll entertain a motion.
Madam President, I'll move to approve authorization of the superintendent to make interim appointments, create full-time equivalent, approve provisional internship permits, variable term waivers, and board authorizations in advance of the board meeting on August 17th, 2022.
Second. Second.
That passes 4-0. 18.16, review and potential approval of purchase for Savas High School science materials for environmental science and physiology.
Good evening. I'll be quick and I have just slides on the, so this is two different items because it's two different publishers. So the first item is the approval of Savas for physiology and environmental science. And you guys have the slides you went through, so I don't need to go through all of that, I assume. So you saw the reasons they approve of this and the teachers recommended. These electives have smaller number of students, so there aren't as many teachers either. So we use the same time tool, but teachers came either after school or we actually were able to get subs for one afternoon, which was lovely, to release teachers if they wanted to come review materials. So both of these, environmental science and physiology, have amazing online components that the current adoptions do not. So that was one of the big pushes, is looking at what do they have online, because as we know, we are now one-to-one. And also in distance learning, it was really tough to do physiology.
Right.
So both of these have really great online components, support for English learners and the like. So anyway, that's just the information for you. There's also an action item, so I'll leave that in your hands.
Thank you so much. Madam President, I move to approve purchase of science materials for physiology and environmental science from Savas.
Second.
Very exciting to see these get into the hands of our students.
That passes 4-0.
Thank you.
And 18.17, review and potential approval of purchase from McGraw-Hill High School science materials for earth science and zoology.
Perfect. So similar, these were just zoology has very limited number of curriculum that are actually for high school students. Majority of the texts that are available are for college students. So having teachers go through, the one that they selected was it's the current adoption or the current version of the one that they're using, that they've been using. So this has the online component that the other one did not. And then earth science, this is the fourth component of McGraw's. They have a chemistry in the earth, they have physics of the universe, and they also have the living earth curriculum. They also have earth science. So earth science is their fourth one. So this has all the components that the physics that we adopted earlier, all of the similar online components, same platform. So yes, so that's for your consideration.
Madam President, I move that the board approve the McGraw-Hill purchases for zoology and earth science as presented.
Second. It's good to see the professional development included with it as well.
And will these materials be available this fall for the students?
Yes. Yeah. So my goal is to have them online soon, like right when after we roll over in July, have them available online, and then we should have, my hope is to have textbooks too. So we're doing class sets of textbooks. So those will, they'll have them available in class, and then they can also check them out if they want to, but they'll have them on their Chromebook. So. anyhow.
Thank you. That
Thank you.
passes 4-0.
Thank you.
15.18, the review and potential approval of realignment, reestablishment, and renaming of some DMA positions.
Yep, so so I'm bringing this forward tonight because we have on our DMA both management salary schedule and also on our confidential salary schedules, we have some misalignment and misplacement of folks. And so in an effort to start the process, because this is going to be a continuous process, in really aligning this to meet our current reality, we are proposing several changes. I do want to make a correction on one of the changes. We have the changes listed on the item, and I'll just go ahead and read them for clarity and for the record. So the changes are the reestablishment of the Director of Transportation position at range 18, the reestablishment of the Special Education Director position at range 32, and this is the correction, placement of the HR Director positions not at range 34, but at range 32 to be aligned with the other directors, reestablishing the position of General Counsel. Right now, we have Mr. Alvarado acting as our Assistant General Counsel. We don't have a General Counsel, and we would like to move Mr. Alvarado to our General Counsel, and then the realignment of our chief positions at the same range as the General Counsel and CBO at range 47. And then lastly, changing the title of Director of Fiscal Services to Executive Director of Fiscal Services, and changing the title of the Senior Executive Administrator Assistant to the Superintendent to Executive Assistant to the Superintendent. So again, this is with changes here within district management. In the future, we need to have additional changes to our management schedule. It's now 8 pages combined. There are positions on here that do not exist, that we don't have anyone in those positions. We have the naming of some positions that are the exact same name, but just 2 words are interchanged. And so there's considerable amount of work to do this, but this does start to bring our leadership whole in terms of having different ranges, having folks at different ranges who are doing similar level work. And so we are asking for potential approval on this item. And if you have any questions, I will also have Dr. Rubio come up and help me address some of these, any questions that you have. But I know that we've presented this information to you when it was posted last week. We had opportunities to, I had my individual meetings with you all, and so it's not as if this, just letting the public know, it's not as if this wasn't discussed.
Questions?
Oh, we have cards.
Oh, no.
They're carded.
Oh, I do. Oh, I didn't have it. Sorry.
The card is over there.
Welcome, Dorothy Weisenberger.
Hello, hello, hello. First of all, I want to, can you guys hear me?
Yes.
Okay. First of all, I want to thank you for clarifying that, because that was one of the things I was coming up to say, that while I am glad to see the director position for special ed, I'm for it. I'm glad, but I did not want to see another director be above another director within the hierarchy of the district. So thank you for that clarification, Dr. Clark. So I am excited to see the director position coming back to special ed because it's been missing for quite a while. And while I think it's going to be important to have that position to help out Dr. Gilly, and also because all of the positions with program specialists and administrators were all equal, and this will give Wendy somebody else to help with that in leadership with what that's been missing in our special ed department. So I just want to say thank you. And I hope you guys approve this.
Thank you.
And I did have one comment. I would like to have this, Dr. Clark look at the range 29. There are 3 positions in there, one of which is the College of Career and Adult Education Director. And considering the magnitude of the work and oversight of the adult education program, I would just like an evaluation to see if there should be a change in that particular range for that position.
You have that, Dr. Rubio? She's asking us to evaluate that. And then
Just evaluate it. I'm not asking.
Oh, absolutely. And it was range 29. I'm sorry,
Yes.
which positions? Anything that's in the range 29?
And that's not to slight any of the other director positions, but.
Director of College and Career.
Thank you. Okay. We will go ahead and keep doing that, as Dr. Clark has given me direction to keep reviewing this and overhauling it, since we have currently 6 or 7 levels. And so we absolutely will go ahead and do that.
Okay,
Yes.
thank you.
Good.
I'll entertain a motion.
I'll move that the board approve the realignment and reestablishment and renaming of DMA positions for the management salary and confidential salary, with the 2 corrections that Dr. Clark mentioned for the HR directors to be placed at range 32, not 34.
Second.
And that passes 4-0. 18.19, review and potential approval of the revision of board policy 4361, leaves.
Good evening, board members. The HR team has been vigorously working through the 4,000 policies. An issue is arising with another unit who is noticing something about our leave policies for managers and wondering why managers have this and that they don't have that. And so we are endeavoring to follow CSBA's models, and we wanted to clarify what means 10 months of work and 11 months of work. And so this has been reviewed by outside legal counsel and internal legal counsel. And so this is based on the CSBA model, which really does clean up this one particular policy. And then we will continue to work on the others and endeavor to have those to you for an August review.
Madam President, I move that the board approve board policy 4361, leaves.
Second.
And that passes 4-0.
Thank you.
Review, moving to 18.20, review and potential approval of job description for program administrator SEEK programs position.
Thank you. I'm back. So again, so this is a job description that we created within the MUDSPA unit when we returned all of the programs back to district operation. And it was sort of a trial run to see how did this go within the program. But over the last year, when kids have been back in school, we've realized that this really is more of an administrative role in actual practice. So we've worked with the Mud Spa unit in order to mitigate the effects of the change. And we continue to go through that process like we would any other negotiations process. But effectively, this adds the duties of serving as administrative designee for the IEPs, and it also adds the duties of actual supervision of the employees rather than clinical supervision, which is different.
Any questions? I'll entertain a motion.
Madam President, I'll move to approve the job description as presented.
Second.
And that passes 4-0.
Thank you.
Finally, 18.21, review and potential approval of job descriptions for administrator, non-public schools and agencies, and director of special education.
Thank you. So the Director of Special Education was updated to, again, reflect the current duties. As we just heard, it was restored to the salary schedule. But the biggest change is the really new position of the administrator non-public schools. What we're proposing is that we take an existing position that's broader, serves programs, and focuses on specifically our non-public school students. Special education has two mandates: one, that we provide a free and appropriate education; two, a public education; two, that we provide that in the least restrictive environment. So due to the pandemic, we've had an increase in our non-public school placements. Hard to defend public school online. So we really want to focus on getting those kids back into the least restrictive environment and put our resources in that area to serve our students.
I'll entertain a motion. Well, I assume there's no questions or comment.
Yes.
All right, let's move it.
Madam President, I'll move to approve job descriptions as presented.
Second.
And that passes 4-0.
Thank you very much.
So that moves us. We do not have any unfinished business from closed sessions. So are there any suggested future agenda items?
We still, I still have the notes from the last meeting about the study session on our performing arts and VAPA experiences here in the district. And we will be doing that at some point, once we come back.
Any other suggestions or needs?
Vacation. Vacation.
Do you want me to do this? I know. So it is with utmost pleasure that I adjourn this meeting.